I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. You are watching the scene outside the courthouse in Manhattan where Donald Trump has just entered. We are here for our live coverage of the arraignment of Donald Trump. As part of the arraignment process, Donald Trump will be entering the courthouse that you see on the screen right now, where he will be arrested, he will be booked, he will be fingerprinted. There is conflicting reports still about whether or not a mugshot will be taken. As soon as we know that, we will be letting you know as well. And then Trump will lead to the courtroom before Judge Juan Merchan, who is the presiding judge in the Supreme Court of New York, who will be presiding over the arraignment. The Supreme Court of New York is their trial court. It's their lower level court in New York. It's a little bit confusing because their highest court is the Court of Appeal, but Judge Juan Merchan is the judge from Supreme Court there. Trump has already now been officially arrested. I can confirm that here. So Donald Trump has been arrested as he's entered the. We're watching the scene right now outside of the Manhattan courthouse where Donald Trump has entered. Donald Trump has been arrested. We can confirm. And now we'll begin the process where he will be arraigned. He will be read the charges against him. We have also been notified that the District Attorney Alvin Bragg will be holding a press conference as well regarding the charges that have been filed. Donald Trump is expected to speak to the press as well. So we will see that because I would say thus far, it's been utterly humiliating for Donald Trump today. If he thought there were going to be thousands of people who are there, cheering for him and rallying for him, I think what we saw in our earlier coverage today was kind of just a bunch of people trolling him. You got a few people with Herschel Walker, which is incredibly bizarre and weird. And I think we saw George Santos walking in. I want to we have the footage of George Santos both in and then George Santos leaving. And then George Santos looked like he was crying when he was leaving, and said that the reason he was leaving is because the media was mean to him and was being mean to him. I mean, George Santos is someone who wears that AR-15 pin and walks around with his performative fascism, lied about everything. One of the things we said here at the Touch Network, that as a George Santos was, I guess one of the few people supporting Donald Trump today with all the cameras around there for Trump's arraignment, we said George Santos is likely preparing for his own arraignment because it's obvious that that day will likely be coming in the next few months based on all of George Santos's conduct. But what you are watching right now as we speak outside Manhattan courthouse, you see the police all lined up. Donald Trump has entered the courthouse. Donald Trump has been arrested. We can confirm that. The next process will be the arraignment of Donald Trump, which will be taking place. Quite a historic day indeed. And in addition to the news of Donald Trump's arraignment, almost simultaneously, we also got news about a major Court of Appeal ruling out of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, which rejected Donald Trump's appeal. Donald Trump was trying to block all of op-aids like Mark Meadows and Dan Scavino and his former national security advisor Robert O'Brien and Stephen Miller and former director of national intelligence John Ratcliffe and former aides like Nick Luna and John McKinty from testifying. Trump had previously lost in the district court. The then presiding, the chief judge at the time, Beryl, held against Donald Trump and found that executive privilege does not apply, compelling those individuals to testify. Donald Trump then went on his right-wing propaganda. I think he went on X and told them, I have nothing to hide. I'm not going to appeal anything at all. Then he filed an appeal. We had told you here on MeidasTouch Network, based on the standards for how you can legitimately assert executive privilege. Donald Trump was not going to win, and he did not win. Let's show you this clip now. George Santos, one of the very few people who went there, I guess, to support Donald Trump. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene and George Santos show up. Marjorie Taylor Greene and George Santos both left within a few minutes of arriving. I don't know. I mean, they live in their fascist echo chamber. So I think they believed that, I don't know, they were going to be like heroes in New York. Well, they both got a New York welcome, if you will, and George Santos is actually a member of Congress from Long, so should have known better as well, but he's disgraced in Long Island. He is absolutely disgraced everywhere. Let me just show you. This was Santos walking into this Marjorie Taylor Greene rally saying going to support Donald Trump. Watch this.
Why are you here?
Because I can be here.
Congressman, is any president above the law?
No. But is this DA going to start criminalizing criminals?
How do you know what?
Where's Hunter Biden's indictment? 2 years of a laptop full, a treasure trove of crime.
If the former president committed a crime, if he committed a crime, should he?
Is anybody accusing me of something?
Should he be held accountable?
Are you judge and jury?
Congressman, if the former president committed a crime, should he be held accountable, though?
This is not that crime, though.
No, why not?
This is old news. All right,
so Congressman, say again, do you believe the president is above the law?
Are you okay?
Are you people okay?
Your colleagues are.
You know I can make room, right?
Excuse me, let's go. Make some way. Make some way. What's the matter with you?
Can we get some space?
Let's go. Make some room. Make some room.
There you have George Santos entering, and then George Santos very quickly left. I think we have this clip of George Santos leaving within basically minutes of that video of him entering. Just watch the before and watch the after. Play the clip.
I'm doing nothing. I'm leaving.
Are you coming back at all later today?
No, because you guys make it unbearable to be here.
Why are you here then?
I came to support the president, but...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, these people are just so utterly like it's pathetic. And as I always say about the MAGA movement, that it combines this wannabe fascism with just a complete and utter idiocracy. And this is why I was so upset at CBS and 60 Minutes for doing that Marjorie Taylor Greene piece. And like, you can't buy the hype of these right-wing MAGA lunatics, right? Like, they are detested everywhere outside of their gerrymandered districts, right? Like, outside of their very small 20-25% MAGA echo chamber that they create with the weirdo Newsmax and Fox propaganda network and OAN. Otherwise, they are just completely and utterly detested. And Marjorie Taylor Greene got to see that firsthand, as she arrived in New York today. And so for those watching, Donald Trump has been arrested. We can confirm that that has taken place earlier as well. We're going to try to get you some of the clips of Donald Trump entering the courthouse. We obviously do not have footage of him actually being arrested. There is some conflicting information about whether or not he's going to speak to the press after the arraignment takes place. And we will keep you posted, of course, if there are press conferences being held. We believe that the district attorney will be giving a press conference. We will see if Donald Trump would be. I mean, the scene out there is so humiliating for Donald Trump right now. If I was betting on it, he's going to try to get his ass back to Mar-a-Lago as soon as possible, because he thought that there was going to be people supporting him. There are not any supporters really out there. I mean, I think I saw a handful of people. There were some people holding Herschel Walker signs. There were people who were blowing whistles. And it turns out that the people who were blowing whistles were actually people who were part of the Marjorie Taylor Greene contingency. They were blowing whistles. So just completely utterly deranged, and they were the ones blowing whistle. They had no clue what in the world was going on there. You're watching a scene inside the courthouse where Donald Trump was just arrested. I'm here with my brother and co-host Brett Meiselas. Brett, a historic day as we show these images from inside the courthouse where moments ago Donald Trump was just arrested, and we have video of Donald Trump, I believe, entering the courthouse. Let's play that clip.
Place right behind where I'm standing now, a massive motorcade. Obviously, the Secret Service, the motorcade as well, getting into formation for a former president, stepping out of his vehicle. You see the Secret Service now stepping outside, taking a look around. Massive Secret Service presence all along the street there. We're just awaiting him to step outside his vehicle once they have a handle of the security here. And then you see the former president there stepping out of his vehicle. He gave a wave to the crowd here, making his way into the building in which he'll be fingerprinted. And now, no, Katie, he will not, in fact, have a mugshot taken of him.
A wave, but a very serious look for Donald Trump as he makes his way into that building for what we have accurately described as a very...
Look, I want to get your take on this, Brett. Here's the thing about Donald Trump, like the playground bully, right? You have to stand up, because when push comes to shove, Donald Trump is as weak as you get. Donald Trump is a coward. And this entire MAGA Republican movement is cowards. Brett, you saw Marjorie Taylor Greene saying they're assaulting my ears. Did you see that? They're auditory assault, she said today.
Yeah, I mean, can you hear me, by the way, right now? There we go. My monitor was not on. What's up, Midas Mighty? No, Marjorie Taylor Greene. That was just a masterclass in humiliation for Marjorie Taylor Greene. And watching that just brought me so much joy, folks. So much joy to watch. Hey, some people just aren't cut out for the city. You know, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene and a lot of her fellow Republicans are just a little too afraid of the city. They don't know what the city is. And they don't know, frankly, what Americans think about them outside of their little bubble. So you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who lives in her little gerrymandered district, who spends all of her time at Mar-a-Lago and at MAGA rallies, and spends her time perpetually on the internet, in the worst areas of the internet, on 4chan and on other weird conspiracy sites, talking about Hunter Biden all day and looking at Hunter Biden's nude pictures. That's like that's Marjorie Taylor Greene's day. It's what she does. She wakes up, she goes, pronouns, and does he have a penis or a vagina? Like this is how she wakes up every day. It's sick, you know? And so all of a sudden she leaves her bubble and she enters reality, which is New York City, and got what I'll call a pleasant New York welcome. And I think you could call, there's a famous phrase called the New York Minute. The New York Minute, I think, could also be defined by the amount of time that Marjorie Taylor Greene spent in New York before getting scared away and run out of the city pathetic, pathetic, pathetic. And so what she did was she gets there. She didn't even have a permit for her protest because she is so absolutely incompetent that she didn't even do the bare minimum that you have to do. So the area where she was going to protest was actually roped off. It was blocked off. She couldn't even get in. And then she tried to kind of walk around. There was nobody really there who showed up with her, maybe like tens of people, a dozen people or something there. She did not get the reception she got. Instead, she got a lot of New Yorkers telling her exactly how they feel about her to her face. And so she went on to Twitter and said what Ben said: "This is assault. They're assaulting my ears and everybody needs to be arrested. Everybody who's assaulting my ears with whistles needs to be arrested." If we have that clip, let's play the moment of the whistles around MTG.
Behind you, man. Behind you. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Back up.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, MTG. See you later. You're not in Georgia anymore. Hate to break it to you. And that's the welcome that she deserves everywhere she goes, frankly. I mean, and like I was saying, these MAGA Republicans, and frankly, a lot of the media who cover them, do not understand how wildly unpopular the MAGA movement is, how wildly unpopular people like Marjorie Taylor Greene truly are. I mean, these are absolutely detested people by the American people. These are toxic people. People hate these people. And rightfully so, because they spread so much toxicity into the bloodstream of the United States of America. And finally, she is confronted with that. And what does she do? She buckles like a coward. She gets the hell out right away, and she hops on a plane and flies to her safe space in Florida in Mar-a-Lago. I'm not kidding. That's where she hopped on a plane to fly to Mar-a-Lago. These people, all these people who talk about, oh, safe spaces, oh, what you know, these weak snowflake liberals, it's all projection once again. Marjorie Taylor Greene got absolutely run out of town and humiliated, and not even a blip of a crowd formed around her. In fact, the opposite. She was drowned out by protesters protesting her. New Yorkers are used to this chaos. They're used to the drama. So what you see is a lot of the people who are there around the courthouse are probably either people from out of town, but it's also just a lot of media there. Like everybody in the media is there, and the media outnumbers the protesters on both sides, frankly, by far. There are far more members of the media there than there are pro-Trump protesters and anti-Trump protesters. The media is really dominating the space. If Donald Trump thought that he was going to get a warm reception of supporters who were going to go there to fight for him, guess what? Donald Trump miscalculated again in a big way. And I think that Donald Trump at this point, reality has to be hitting the guy. He's never actually had to face accountability like this once in his life. And Donald Trump has the honor of being the first president of the United States ever to be placed under arrest. Donald Trump has been arrested. Donald Trump has surrendered to authorities. Donald Trump is currently being arraigned in Manhattan criminal court, being treated like the common criminal that he is. It's a beautiful day for America. And you know, I've been sick and I've been excited to come on here to speak to the Meidas Mighty, because watching the coverage that I see out there on MSNBC, on CNN, on some of these networks, they're all like, you know what, everybody, we need to acknowledge this is a very sad day, very somber day for the United States of America. And we have to just reflect. This is a great day. This is a day of celebration. We should all be proud that justice is being done, even if we are at the beginning stages. This is a happy day. This is a joyous day. This is a day of celebration. And don't let anybody gaslight you and tell you otherwise. The media, they get it wrong every single time. And even on a day like today, try to make you sad, try to make you feel bad about this. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is a happy day. This is an absolutely joyous day. And I'm about to make your day a little bit more joyous because we showed you that first clip of George Santos when he first kind of got there and was dealing with the media. But I don't think we showed you George Santos giving up. This is what happened. He got there. You said you had him actually the running away clip?
Boom, boom, boom.
Okay, I didn't see it. Anyway, you know what we should show though? So we were talking about before.
We could show George Santos running away again, though. I mean, it's that great.
Okay, cool. Let's
wait. But just we a lot of new viewers have just joined, and it's a great clip to watch. So let's set it up with first showing George Santos entering, and then we'll show George Santos leaving. So first, let's show you George Santos entering. Play this clip.
That's
why are you here?
Because I can be here.
Congressman, is any president above the law?
No. But is this DA going to start criminalizing criminals?
How do you know what?
Where's Hunter Biden's indictment? 2 years of a laptop full, a treasure trove of crime.
Where's Hunter Biden? Hunter Biden.
Crime should be.
Are you? Is anybody accusing me of something? Are you judge and jury?
Congressman, if the former president committed a crime, should he be held accountable, though?
This is not that crime, though.
Why not?
This is old news. All right,
so Congressman, say again, do you believe the president is above the law?
Are you okay down there?
People okay?
Your colleagues are.
You know I can make room, right?
Excuse me, let's go. Make some way. Make some way. What's the matter with you?
Can we get some space? Like,
let's go. Make some room. Make some room.
Okay,
George
so that
Santos,
was him.
You will
that was
soon
him.
have your day. You will soon have your own perp walk. Don't you worry.
So that was him arriving. Now let's show him leaving.
I'm doing nothing. I'm leaving.
Are you coming back at all later today?
No, because you guys make it unbearable to be here.
Why are you here then?
I came to support the president, but.
The whole show could just be us showing that clip over.
And here's what's great about today also, that Donald Trump, he could have had this arraignment done on Zoom, right? Donald Trump is wrong about everything. Like, please, Donald Trump, tell me which stocks you love. Please let me know, because I want to short them all. Just let me know. One of the things about MAGA, though, in addition to being traitors and fascists and losers, is that they're idiots and they are actually wrong about every single thing, right? So here, the right move by Donald Trump would have been, you do the arraignment by Zoom. You don't have to show up in New York. But in his own malignant narcissistic mind, right? In his own malignant narcissistic mind, he believed that he was going to walk up, because he doesn't know what he's doing. He thought there was going to be stairs, or he thought he was going to walk upstairs and he was going to wave to people, and he was going to have this whole group of MAGA red hat wearing nut jobs say, "We love you, you die for our sins." He thought that's what he thought in his ridiculous, stupid mind.
It's wild.
And here's what it actually looked like. We have the clip of him entering, and he looks like George Santos crying. Here, let's show the clip earlier, right before Donald Trump gets arrested. Let's play the clip right before Trump gets arrested. Play this clip.
Place right behind where I'm standing now, a massive motorcade. Obviously, the Secret Service, the motorcade as well, getting into formation for a former president stepping out of his vehicle. You see the Secret Service now stepping outside, taking a look around. Massive Secret Service presence all along the street there. We're just awaiting him to step outside his vehicle once they have a handle of the security here. And then you see the former president there stepping out of his vehicle. He gave a wave to the crowd here, making his way into the building in which he'll be fingerprinted. And now, no, Katie, he will not, in fact, have a mugshot taken of him.
A wave, but a very serious look for Donald Trump as he makes his way into that building for what we have accurately described as a very...
That's the moment, Brett, that he wanted, where he looks like a pathetic loser, isolated, alone. The only two people who were there were Marjorie Taylor Greene and George Santos. And look, you've got these other weak MAGA Republican fascists who are on the media tour that they do. And they're like, oh, it's the weaponization, because they have no spine and they secretly encourage the prosecution because these are just like the worst people, like who they go on and they say that because they believe that's what they have to say to the base. And here's the thing. You don't, the thing about like leadership, the thing about like actually being a political leader is you stand up for beliefs and not. That's why you're a political leader. If you were just going to be fascist sheep, then then you could join the likes of David Koresh and Timothy McVeigh and all of them. But like your job as a political leader is to actually lead. And it's fairly easy to say, and by the way, you notice, Brett, that they never say, like even like George Santos, no matter what, there's never an argument that Donald Trump is innocent or that he didn't commit a crime, right? It's always Hunter Biden's laptop and the treasure trove of the laptop. Or why is the Manhattan District Attorney why is he focused on this crime? He should be focused on that crime. And it's like, he is focused on that crime. If you go to the Manhattan District Attorney's office, it's not like a bunch of press releases of Donald Trump. It's all of the other crimes that they prosecute each and every day. And this one's not even mentioned on their website right now because they do good hard work every single day. I think we got the third co-founder of MeidasTouch here. Do we have Jordy joining us?
Let's go. What's up, brothers?
Jordy, are you dressed in Knicks attire or Mets attire?
It's a New York day, fellas. We're Long Island boys, born at heart, and so it's a New York day. I got some New York energy right now.
Tell us about that New York energy. How'd that New York energy go from Marjorie Taylor Greene? I think
Marjorie Taylor Greene saw that New York energy just on full display. Man, they played themselves. Donald played himself.
What's this voice that is this like a New York voice?
I'm hyped.
Persona that you're doing right now.
No, I'm just hyped. I'm just hyped. My New York comes out of me a little bit when I get hyped. When I see all those New Yorkers rallying around and just get out of our city, Marjorie. We don't want you here. We don't like you. We don't love you like that, Marge. They don't love you like that. I mean, that was full on amazing energy from New York. And you just have to appreciate that. And I heard you guys talking about this earlier. I mean, look, Donnie and Marge and George Santos. I mean, look, they all thought that they're about to have another 15 minutes of fame where they're going to meet with these protesters and they're going to be, oh, we love you guys. Thanks for coming down. Thanks for this. Thanks for that. Nope. No, get out. We don't love you like that. New York doesn't mess with you like that. Get out. We're not. And by the way, that's the sentiment across America at large. So Marjorie and Georgie Santos and Donald Trump, they can live in their little bubbles, right? But once you're in America at large, they're despised, despicable figures. And it was on full display today. This is beautiful. What a day.
How about when Marjorie Taylor Greene, she arrives in New York, and she's like mostly been in her car the whole time or in her hotel. And then she like just talks crap about the city.
Yeah,
but then she's like, this looks like Gotham City. And they were actually filming Batman right outside of her.
Yeah, I noticed when she said New York City looks like Gotham City, I know she was trying to do like a dig on New York City. First off, Gotham City is based on New York City. So yes, of course, it looks like New York City. A. B, they're literally filming the Batman movie Joker 2, the Joker sequel, in New York City, right outside of Trump's courthouse, right outside of the grand jury courthouse. So yes, she's actually very astute. I'm pretty sure she just like drove past the set and I was like, this looks awfully like Gotham City. Let me tweet it out. And it just so happens to be that no, they're actually. I was like, they're shooting Joker there because they were just shooting Joker in downtown LA a few weeks back, and I remember them doing the scenes and people sending me the videos outside their windows of them doing Joker stunts outside. But they're literally in New York right now, and this is just the weird thing also that Republicans try to get away with. And you see Jim Jordan as he tweets to himself all day between his two accounts, the House Judiciary account and the his account on Twitter and things like that. And the comments they make, they go, "Oh, well, real America supports Donald. Real America this, real America that." Guess what? You are seeing real America right now.
Facts.
Real America,
Facts.
people who just drove your ass out of New York City. That's real America. You know why Donald Trump always in all these favorability reports, including the one that came out yesterday, you know why he always has 29% support? Because that 29% of support is all he's got. That's all he's got. And guess what? These people happen to have these gerrymandered districts that all that support is coalesced within. But once they leave those districts, once you get into America at large, into actual real America, guess what? These people are hated, just like Jordy said.
They don't love you like that.
They don't love you like I love you. So what you also gotta what you also have to realize also is, you know, I want to put an emphasis on Ben's point from before. Out of all the people who could have went to New York to have Donald Trump's back, it was the two most disgraced members of Congress who ended up there. Marjorie Taylor Greene and George Santos. Those were the people who ended up in New York to have Donald Trump's back. I mean, how pathetic is that? And not only that, the smattering of protesters that were there. Do you want to see the caliber of people that were there to support Trump? Let's throw up this one protester. Absolutely disgusting. What we just saw outside the Manhattan courthouse. For those, if you're listening, it says Bragg's Jews. Remember how we told you when they say Bragg is controlled by Soros, what it means, what the dog whistle is there. When they say that he's controlled by he's a Soros-controlled prosecutor, they are saying it's an anti-Semitic trope. And here you have, let's pull it back up, Bragg's Jews, the sign reads, Michael Cohen, Alan Weisselberg, David Pecker. By the way, Alan Weisselberg is the CFO of the Trump organization. And like, it just all so absolutely ridiculous. And for those just tuning in, yes, it's true. It has happened, folks. Donald Trump has been arrested in New York City. He is currently being processed. He is being arraigned. We have cameras right there inside the courthouse, as far in as they are allowing us to be. And today,
and by the way, it should be noted for programming purposes that this is actually a MeidasTouch camera. You know, that we are not actually using, like, this is a feed that it's a proprietary feed. So I think that's an important aspect of this as well. Brett, sorry for interrupting you.
Oh, no, all good. I was just gonna.
Brett, I just want to emphasize your point that you said earlier too, because Ben, as you talk about the proprietary cameras, the reason why we do this thing is because y'all watching us right now, there's a reason you're here at the MeidasTouch Network, and we appreciate that. And that reason is legacy media continues to fail you over and over and over again, and we're sick of it, and you're sick of it, which is amazing. And the biggest thing right now, that like the big takeaway that I've been watching all these other networks saying, and Brett, I think you hinted on this earlier, is that today is a sad day. Today is a sad day for this country. All over legacy media. Stop it. Stop it. Please stop with the sad day BS. There is nothing sad about a criminal being held accountable. And when you refer to this day as sad, you're just telling on yourselves. And so I thank you, viewers here. Make sure you're subscribed right now. It's free. Hit subscribe to the MeidasTouch Network, the MeidasTouch YouTube channel right now. It's free. And let's keep building this, because y'all are truth seekers and you're sick of being gaslit. And we appreciate that. And we're going to make sure that we deliver you the news as you deserve. So thank you.
And the news I'm getting right now from our sources who are actually on the ground outside of Trump Tower right now is that there's not much going on there. Just got a text from somebody, our source in New York, who's on the ground literally in front of Trump Tower at the moment. And they say that there are a lot of barricades and police buses, but nobody is there. If Donald Trump thought that he was going to have a wave of supporters greet him heroically in New York, he miscalculated big time. And we've seen this just absolutely abhorrent line of support for Donald Trump over the past few days that has really escalated. And we've actually seen this kind of going into his rallies. We saw it last week on propaganda TV. I think it was either Newsmax or RSBN or one of those, where Donald Trump's supporters start comparing him to Jesus Christ. That's their new thing. Donald Trump, he's just he's being he's being crucified for his sins, and Donald Trump he's taking the pain for us. He is our savior. This is something that we keep seeing repeated now, and it is absolutely sick. First off, the guy can't even name a single Bible verse whatsoever. He has violated really every commandment imaginable that there is. And this is somebody who was so anti the teachings of this religion, and to hold him up as Jesus Christ is so sacrilegious. And I just think back in the days when a comment from like the Beatles, when John Lennon said, "Yeah, we're bigger than Jesus now." That was like the biggest controversy on the planet when John Lennon said that. But today you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in a car standing next to being interviewed by an OAN reporter who she cheated on her husband with and is now dating, talking about how Donald Trump is actually Jesus Christ. Just think about that. Yeah. And she cheated on her husband with multiple people, including a tantric sex trainer, and the
the story though with her husband too, Brett. And I'm not going to get into the tantric sex cheating or anything like that, but so I think she met her husband in college, and Marjorie Taylor Greene actually comes from money. A lot of people don't know her background. Marjorie Taylor Greene's dad, I think, created a very successful construction company that she never really did a day of, didn't really do anything for. And her husband, who she met at college, was the one who then took over her dad's company. And that's how she basically got her money. It was through her dad's company. And then her husband, who's now her ex-husband, who she cheated on with the tantric sex, guru. And by the way, it's not about... The issue is, to me, is not about, sex shaming or anything like that. The bottom line is that she's out there acting like she's the moral authority, right? And she's out there engaging in these acts every single day. She's the one telling people about, the sanctity of marriage, as Pete Buttigieg basically said, is like, stop going after my marriage. I never had sex with a porn star and paid hush money and paid hush money too. Like, I'm out here raising a family.
And Ben, just so the viewers don't have to take my word for it, we actually have the clip of MTG in the car comparing Trump to Jesus. Let's roll it.
President Trump is joining some of the most incredible people in history being arrested today. Nelson Mandela was arrested, served time in prison. Jesus was arrested and murdered by the Roman government. There have been many people throughout history that have been arrested and persecuted by radical, corrupt governments. And it's beginning today in New York City. And I just can't believe it's happening, but I'll always support him. He's done nothing wrong.
Those are some in-your-face opinions, Brett. Right?
What, in your face, yeah, in your face. They called her. Here's a direct quote of 60 Minutes. They go, Marjorie Taylor Greene, known for her strong and fearless opinions. That's how they opened. That's how they opened the show. Strong and fearless, unbelievable. And I want to tell everybody right now, this is big news that Alvin Bragg, Manhattan District Attorney, is scheduled to speak at 12:30 Pacific time, 3:30 Eastern time. So we should probably still be on then, or we might be in the political beatdown at that point.
No. Scheduling alert on political beatdown. We will not be doing the political beatdown at its normal hour today. Political beatdown, because we want to have all of this coverage. We want to talk about everything that happened. Cohen and I are going to react to the full day's events at 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. Smart. So I try to do smart things.
That's super intelligent.
That's why people know you're the smart brother.
And let me and let me emphasize that point, folks. Here on the MeidasTouch Network, you're going to hear the unfiltered reaction from Michael Cohen himself to the arrest and arraignment of Donald J. Trump right here, folks, on the
You get it for the
MeidasTouch
first
Network.
time. Yeah.
So make
that's
sure
why
that you subscribe, and make sure you go subscribe to the audio of Political Beatdown podcast. It's a podcast that Ben and Michael Cohen do twice a week to break down all the indictment news from the way only the insiders know, like Michael Cohen. You're going to want to subscribe.
Yeah, so normally Political Beatdown is 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern on Tuesdays and Thursdays when we go live. But given all the developments today, Cohen and I decided let's react to everything that's taken place, because otherwise, if in the middle of our Political Beatdown, you had, for example, the Alvin Bragg press conference, I think that everybody would much rather see Cohen's response to that than us just kind of playing that, which we don't know if that's going to be 20 seconds, 20 minutes, 2 hours. But we will have, of course, all of that coverage for you live. So for those just tuning in now, just so you know the scene here, this is a camera that we have at the MeidasTouch Network that is actually inside the courthouse right now. You're seeing the NYPD in front of the door where we expect that will be the door where everybody will be entering and leaving, potentially including Donald Trump there. Donald Trump entered the courthouse earlier. Donald Trump was not greeted as he expected to. He kind of gave a very sheepish wave to the, I think, few people who were there who were holding Herschel Walker signs. Don't ask me why they were holding Herschel Walker signs, but that's what you had. There were a few Trump impersonators there. It was like actually a clown show. Like, it wasn't like a figurative, like it was a real clown show. And
no offense to clown shows.
You had, no offense, you had Trump impersonators. You had people trolling. People trolling Trump. And then you had the media basically out there. So Trump like kind of looked, and we'll show you the clip right before he gets arrested again, where he kind of like thinks that there's going to be people. And like, there's almost a moment, if you watch it for a second, where like in his mind, he goes from, I thought there were going to be people here to really upset. And then Donald Trump gets arrested. He gets booked. We don't believe a mugshot was taken. That's the latest reporting. We don't believe a mugshot was taken. And then he's now in the arraignment as we speak. The arraignment process, for those who you hear the term arraignment, an arraignment basically just means that the judge will read the charges one by one, each count. There are 34 felony counts right now. And as to each count, Donald Trump will have to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. While we know that he's very guilty, we expect him to enter a plea of not guilty. One thing that could potentially happen at an arraignment as well, which I've seen in California procedure, and I think could potentially exist in New York procedure as well, is that you could do something called putting the arraignment over, where you get the discovery and then you don't have your formal arraignment on the date of your arraignment. You continue the arraignment, you get the discovery, and then you come back for your arraignment. But here, all that would mean is that the scene that we're watching, Donald Trump's just going to have to keep coming back. So that will be interesting to see how that factors into his considerations, if he's going to even seek to continue it, or if he's going to proceed with the arraignment that day, on this day. But the indictment gets unsealed. The full indictment gets unsealed right before the arraignment. And then Donald Trump will see all of the charges against him. And then he'll have the opportunity, as anyone does who goes through the system, to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. And then you go through, the normal steps. Each hearing that takes place, Donald Trump will have to appear at, because this is a felony case. Although we'll see if there's any reasons, or any considerations or conditions that are different here. And we're also going to focus on whether or not any type of gag order is issued. My prediction was, and so I'll put my prediction on the record, is that a gag order is not going to be issued at this hearing, but a warning will be issued about the intention to have a gag order. But we'll see if I'm right or wrong on that. And then ultimately, I think eventually there will be a gag order that gets implemented because Donald Trump can't help himself. And here, like, let me just show you some of the posts that Donald Trump made right before he got arrested on his social media platform. And we've been pulling a bunch of them up here. Let's pull this one up right here where Donald Trump says, heading to Lower Manhattan, the courthouse seems so surreal. Wow. They are going to arrest me. Can't believe this is happening in America. MAGA. I mean, like it is very weird. Like it's just very
weird. He's the weirdest person in the world. Ben, I have a question for you. We talked about this last night on the MeidasTouch podcast. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. If there is a gag order in place, said gag order gets violated, what are the repercussions?
Contempt, which could be a monetary sanction and then escalate to actual imprisonment over the contempt if you repeatedly violate. And here's the thing, though. I truly believe if you implemented a gag order on Donald Trump, he would, and again, this is, you may go, oh, Ben, you're wrong. I think he would actually comply with it. I truly do. Like here's the thing. Anytime he's actually been confronted, right, with real force, backed by legitimate accountability, he's chicken shit. Like that's his psychology. You have to really get in there. And the bloviating madness is because inside it's like right out of, one of those, like Odyssean kind of like mythological, like how people are so flawed. Like he's a little peanut, like he's a real tiny coward loser. And this whole bloviating madness is because of how weak he actually is. So I truly believed, and this is why the MAGA Republicans are, to me, so disgusting and despicable, is because if you actually step up to it and you're like, no, and if you do that, here's what's going to happen to you, freaking traitor. Like if you do that, he cowers down. And there have been lots of examples of that. Like remember when he wanted to appoint that traitor to take over the Department of Justice, that Jeff Clark guy, and then the acting attorney general and the whole crew went in there and said, we're all going to resign if you do that. So under no circumstance are you going to do that. And Trump's like, really? And then he backed down when he was confronted with that.
Ben, it's classic high school bully syndrome that this entire Republican Party right now suffers through. It's not just Donald Trump, although he's one of the biggest exhibitors of this behavior, but like a guy like Ron DeSantis. There have been some good reporters that have actually pressed Ron DeSantis into forcing him to answer questions, and all he does is bloat up his chest a little bit and start talking down and trying to belittle the reporter. These people, they're not backed. These Republicans, they're not backed by facts at all. And they're the most cowardice folks on this planet. And so when presented with actual consequences, they can't do anything. They freak out because it puts their entire mindset in shambles. It's like standing up to the one bully in high school finally and watching how he crumbles and cries to the teacher.
And Jordy, it's because in many ways, I mean, in all ways, they're weak people. Like they're weak and they need to control the environment around them 150%. And the second they lose control over their surroundings, they are powerless and they are helpless. And that's what we see with a guy like Trump. That's what we see with a guy like Ron DeSantis. In Florida, when he gets to bully the press, when he gets to decide who's going to be in that room with him and who's not going to be in that room with him, guess what? Then he could control the audience. He could yell at them. He could act tough, whatever.
Yeah.
The second he steps out of that bubble and tries to do that on a national scale and actually has to face tough questions, is actually confronted, he crumbles. He crumbles because he is an absolute coward. And I want to also say, all these Republicans are like that. You see even like Jim Jordan today, Jim Jordan releasing a statement before any of this even happened, complaining about a possible gag order. Like, dude, at least let the process happen before you have the letter complaining about what may or may not happen. Jim Jordan and James Comer here releasing a statement on unconstitutional gag order. It hasn't happened. This hasn't happened. This has not happened. Let me just specify. There has been no gag order as of the time of this recording. Trump was not even arrested as of the time that this statement was released.
And Brett, as you read that, I just want to, what is happening as of the time of this recording? Right now, Donald Trump is being fingerprinted. We can report here on the MeidasTouch network. He was arrested. He is now being officially fingerprinted, and we'll try to keep you updated as our sources give us more information about what is going on in real time. But he is being fingerprinted right now. Brett, sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's big news. And Trump is being treated like the common criminal that he is. And good. Finally, he gets to have a little taste of justice here.
And I want to pull up, Trump is also, while fingerprinting, he is grifting. I mean, multitasking the grift right now. Look at what he's been sending out to all of his cult followers. This is real. I had to kind of triple and quadruple check that this is actually something that was sent by Donald Trump's campaign. He is selling not guilty Donald Trump t-shirts. He goes, not guilty. Do you stand with President Trump, friend? Please make a contribution of whatever. I do want to clarify, this is not the real mugshot. This is, though, Donald Trump selling a fake mugshot of himself. And one of the ways we know that it's fake, and if you, it's hard to see, but if you look very close at that, Donald Trump also puts his height at 6'5" inches.
Come on.
Yes,
6'5". Oh wow! So he's went up. His official that he was saying was he was 6'3", 239, and now he's saying he's 6'5". Interesting, because anytime I see him next to somebody like Barack Obama, he seems far smaller than Barack Obama. And what's Barack Obama's height?
He's like Pinocchio.
Barack Obama's 6'2", and if you look at any photo of Trump next to Obama, Donald Trump is shorter than Obama. So
I just want to be very clear too, Brett, because in this motion that Donald Trump's lawyers had filed before the proceedings today, they said because of the dignity and decorum that is needed in these proceedings, that a camera in the court would be detrimental to the august nature of these proceedings. By the way, we're looking right now. These look like Donald Trump's lawyers. That is
Joe Tacopina.
That is Nicholas and Joe Tacopina exiting right there.
They look like Boris Epstein as well.
Yeah, it looked like Boris Epstein, Tacopina, and I think her name is Susan Nicholas, was Donald Trump's lead attorney in the in this case, number one, but she's also Trump's that lost when the Trump organization was criminally convicted on 17 felony counts. So actually a big moment, which is why we have our cameras fixated right there. And there is Donald Trump exiting.
Donald Trump exiting the courthouse right now, not looking too happy. Donald Trump as he exits, and he's gone following his attorneys, following Boris Epstein, and he is out. A stern look towards the cameras. There,
Jason
Miller exiting. You're seeing all these Trump aides, and also, as you see these Trump aides, these are also like the bottom of the barrel of the Trump aides, just like the worst of the worst that he ever had. Just the leeches who literally cannot be employed anywhere else, and they have to just spend their whole lives trying to grift off Donald Trump. I mean, Boris Epstein has a whole host of issues, but I'll just say one, funny anecdote about Epstein. So him and Steve Bannon created a cryptocurrency called the FJB cryptocurrency, meaning F. Joe Biden was the cryptocurrency they created. Obviously, this cryptocurrency they created was a complete and utter scam and lost 95% of its value after it went on to the market. So that's who you have standing next to Donald Trump. And Jason Miller, of course, who has done a whole host of horrific things that are on the record by his side. Also standing beside people like Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil, flying down to Brazil. If you remember, Jason Miller was actually stopped at the airport by security and was not allowed to leave Brazil a few months back for planning anti-government activities with Bolsonaro. These are the people, insurrectionists, criminals, thieves. These are the people that Donald Trump surrounds himself with. And for those just tuning in, for those who may have missed the visual, that was Donald Trump walking out of the room from his arraignment after being fingerprinted. Donald Trump has been arrested. That's right, folks. The first former president, or any president for that matter, to be arrested.
And Brent, I'm going to get the footage of him leaving right there, but I'll say this. Looks like he also got a big surprise that he was not expecting. You know, did you see how he looked when he left? I mean,
yes.
And I want to be very clear. He had the opportunity to do this arraignment via Zoom, according to all the reporting that we've seen. And the district attorney was willing to have a lower profile version of this. Donald Trump wanted to do this. He thought that he was going to get greeted like a hero in New York, and that Marjorie Taylor Greene was going to coordinate this massive red hat MAGA rally, and people would be shouting his name. It was the exact opposite. It's been utterly humiliating. There's the photo. And I just want to do this for a moment. Okay, Brett? I just want everybody to take a look at this. Okay. That is someone, as I told you before, that is someone who is scared. That is someone who is frightened. That is someone who just recognized and realized that accountability is here. And this is just the beginning, folks. This is just the beginning. And that was quite the moment. And, you know, I will bring back up that clip in a second, but, you know, we saw Susan Necklace, his lawyer. We saw Joe Tacopina exit first. And let's just take a look at what's going on right now. Some of the press is leaving. The police is directing them there. Yeah, we saw Susan Necklace. We saw Tacopina. We saw Jason Miller. We saw, it looked like Boris Epstein. So we saw Donald Trump's legal team all kind of go first. There was a moment, a pause. Then Donald Trump exited, and he had fear in his eyes. Mm-hmm. He looks like, and I am curious. We have our sources working about what went down in that room, but that was not, he knew he'd be on camera in that moment there too. And that looked like a weak loser right there.
Absolutely, Ben. I mean, you can't say it other than that. That's just the facts behind it all. He looked like a weak loser walking out. I don't even think anybody held the door open for him too. Everyone who walked out of that room just there was defeated, more so than the next, and no worse so than Donald Trump walking out. Man, this is a good day. This is a good day in America. Don't let anyone tell you not. This is a good day for this country. No matter how powerful you are. Go ahead, Brett.
I'm pulling up the full screenshot of Donald Trump as he exited the room, and you could just see the look on his face. Jordy, how would you describe this look on Donald Trump's face exiting?
Miserable, sad, crying. Honestly, I would take it back to us growing up when one of you guys would beat me in a video game and I would get really upset. This is kind of how I would look. I'd cry to mom or dad.
Great analysis, Jordy. We are the #1 watched YouTube feed in the world.
Why people come here. That's why people come here. Why people come here.
We are the #1 YouTube feed in the world. We just saw Donald Trump exit, and Brett asked you, what does that look remind you of? And you said, when I lost the knock hockey to you and Ben. As
so I try to give Jordy the opportunity, and you get to capture it or let it slip. Donald Trump, just for those watching, he is exiting that room, and Donald Trump is stepping into the courtroom right now. That is where Donald Trump is off to. Things are getting incredibly real for Donald Trump, and as we said, as people say, it's a sad day for America. Nope. You know what it's a sad day for? It's a sad day for Donald Trump. Donald Trump, despite all of his bravado, despite all of his loudmouth, disgusting posts, his behavior, his comments, his threats, when he's actually cornered by prosecutors, when he's actually held accountable under the law, he looks like this. Weak, traitor, loser.
Loser.
That's Donald
Let's
Trump.
Play you. Speaking of weak traitor losers, let's give you the reaction by Fox here. Let's play this clip.
So let's not forget that Alvin Bragg not only is he setting precedent for bringing criminal charges for the very first time in this nation's history against a former president, but he's taking a case. And this is the hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels back in 2016, just before the election. He's taking a case that the feds said they wouldn't prosecute. Here comes the former president. Let's just listen into this.
President Trump, will you come speak to us, President Trump?
Oh, that was just yeah. And he went right into the courtroom. We thought that he was going to come up to that camera, but change of plans to what we had been advised. And he just walked straight in there. So again, we are told that there is a still photographer who is in the courtroom who will.
So I told you, okay, when you rewind this broadcast, what did I say? I said there is no chance he's speaking to the press right there after he did that booking, right? I said, they said he was going to do that, but the reason he's not is because this was not what he imagined today was going to be like in his mind, right?
Yes.
As he thought that he was going to walk up these courthouse steps. He thought that he was going to be completely triumphant and all these weirdo fascists wearing their red hats that they're all going to go, oh, yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Donald Trump. That's the exact opposite of what happened here. Just for all those watching, first, let's play the video now of Donald Trump entering the courthouse right before he gets arrested. Let's play that clip. Then we'll show this last clip from Fox. Let's play the first clip, him entering right before his arrest.
Place right behind where I'm standing now, a massive motorcade. Obviously, the Secret Service, the motorcade as well, getting into formation for a former president, stepping out of his vehicle. You see the Secret Service now stepping outside, taking a look around, massive Secret Service presence all along the street there. We're just awaiting him to step outside his vehicle once they have a handle of the security here. And then you see the former president there stepping out of his vehicle. He gave a wave to the crowd here, making his way into the building in which he'll be fingerprinted. And now, no, Katie, he will not, in fact, have a mugshot taken of him.
A wave, but a very serious look for Donald Trump as he makes his way into that building for what we have accurately described as a very...
So that's him entering. He then gets arrested. He gets booked. He gets fingerprinted. Now let's play you that clip from Fox as he entered after being arrested, after being booked, where he was supposed to speak with the press. He talked about how this was going to be some like triumphant speech he was going to be given. This is a photo that we have of him, which will certainly become a thumbnail on future MeidasTouch videos. as is,
let's pull up the other one too, because I really
pull
like
up the other photo as well. That will be a thumbnail as well for future MeidasTouch videos. Yeah, that photo right there. Let's keep this photo up there for a moment, folks. Let's keep this photo up there, folks. Do not let the media gaslight you into thinking today is a sad day or a somber day. F that. Today is a great day. Today is one of the greatest days in American history. This photo that you are watching right here is a photo that should put a big smile on the face of anyone who cares about our democracy, who cares about our criminal justice system, who cares about law and order. Donald Trump, the day of accountability is here, and this is the first of many days where we will be seeing. Let's go back here. Brett, what do you think about that photo?
It's the best day ever, folks. It's the best. I mean, it's 11:30 in LA where we're recording from. At least me and you, Ben. I almost want to break out the champagne. I mean, it's that glorious of a day. I mean, that photo is going to go down in history, and we're about to actually post that photo as well onto our Instagram account. So make sure you're following us also on Instagram, instagram.com/MeidasTouch, and you could share that photo with all your friends on Instagram. We're about to post that, so make sure that you go check it out and share it everywhere. That's the image of Donald Trump that we need to see. And just think about the photos that Donald Trump puts out. Think about the flag waving of Donald Trump at these rallies where they make him look like Rambo and they give him 8-pack abs and just this bizarre image. This bizarre image that they put up of Donald Trump. And just know that at the end of the day, this guy is nothing more than a common thief. This guy is nothing more than a common criminal. And he is weak and he is deflated. And now we are all witnessing history together, witnessing the first bit of accountability. And I think one of the best things about it all also, this is just the beginning, folks. This is just the beginning. This is, if anything, the least of Donald Trump's worries. And just look at how the Republicans are taking this. Look at how Donald Trump is taking this. There's Georgia coming. There is the feds coming on multiple cases.
Yes.
Jack Smith is on the case. Jack Smith, big news today that Ben broke down before, and he could break down again shortly. But Donald Trump is right now being crushed by all angles. And you had the Trump people for years, honestly. Every time that his criminality was brought up, they would say, "Oh, you're the conspiracy theorist. So you think Donald Trump's ever going to get arrested? You're the conspiracy theorists. You're making things up. Oh, you're blue anon. Guess what? Following the data, following the court filings, following the criminal behavior is different than thinking there are Jewish space lasers that are going to come down and destroy the planet. Okay, and so that's a much different thing. And guess what? Justice is coming. Justice is here. And now it's funny how you see all those same people then try to deflect and say, "Oh, this is you want to step this to a Soros prosecutor, and if he could do this to you, he could do this to anybody. And just wait till the district attorney in Wyoming goes after Joe Biden." It's like, that's not how any of this works, folks. That's not how this works. Donald Trump lived in New York for many years. Donald Trump committed many crimes in New York. Now the district attorney of Manhattan, the district in which Donald Trump lived, did business in, is coming after him because Donald Trump broke the law. That's it, folks. Donald Trump broke the law. And all the gaslighting that people like Jim Jordan want to do, all these sycophantic Republicans, and I believe I have this too, Salty, if you could pull it up. I have, this just shows you that there is no Republican Party anymore, folks. The Republican Party that we knew about is gone. It's dead. It's just the Trump cult. And how do you know? Because even somebody like Jeb Bush a few days ago rushes to the defense of Donald Trump. You throw up the Jeb Bush tweet. Jeb Bush said Bragg's predecessor didn't take up the case. Also, by the way, this is a lie. This is made up. That's not
false.
True. False information. The Justice Department didn't take up the case. The Justice Department was Trump's Justice Department, and they had Cy Vance, the former Manhattan DA. They told him to stand down.
Hey, Brett, let me interrupt you right now. Let's get up the court photo that we're getting right now. This is Donald Trump at court. This is breaking news. This is the photo. There was one photographer who was allowed to be there in the court. You see right there, Joe Tacopina, Susan Nicholas, Donald Trump's legal team right there. We see Donald Trump sitting there. This, folks, is the first photograph you're now seeing live here on the MeidasTouch network of Donald Trump in court. This is a real photograph. This is an authentic photograph. This is what is taking place right now. Judge Juan Merchan, the presiding judge, did not allow any filming in the court, but did allow a photographer in the court, one photographer, a pool photographer, to take these photos. As we get more photos, we are going to we'll put them up here. We will post them, but that is the first photograph that you are watching there. So let's put this all together right now in order, if you will, of what's transpired. First off, we should mention that this, though, is the #1 stream right now of all news on YouTube, thanks to you, the Midas Mighty. For those who haven't subscribed yet to the MeidasTouch network, it's free to subscribe, so just make sure you hit the subscribe button right now. We've got over 1 million subscribers, and it is important that you hit the subscribe button right now here. All right, so let's start off with Donald Trump entering the courthouse. This is Donald Trump entering right before he gets arrested. Let's play this clip of what happened first. Let's play
Placed right behind where I'm standing now, a massive motorcade. Obviously, the Secret Service, the motorcade as well, getting into formation for a former president stepping out of his vehicle. You see the Secret Service now stepping outside, taking a look around. Massive Secret Service presence all along the street there. We're just awaiting him to step outside his vehicle once they have a handle of the security here. And then you see the former president there stepping out of his vehicle. He gave a wave to the crowd here, making his way into the building in which he'll be fingerprinted. And now, no, Katie, he will not, in fact, have a mugshot taken of him.
A wave, but a very serious look for Donald Trump as he makes his way into that building for what we have accurately described as a very...
So not greeted like he thought he was going to be. And then let's show the footage of Donald Trump exiting the room after he is arrested, after he was booked, and then he headed to the courtroom where he would be arraigned. Let's show this clip, and we'll show you the reaction on Fox where they were just left speechless. Let's play this clip.
So let's not forget that Alvin Bragg not only is he setting precedent for bringing criminal charges for the very first time in this nation's history against a former president, but he's taking a case. And this is the hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels back in 2016, just before the election. He's taking a case that the feds said they wouldn't prosecute. Here comes the former president. Let's just listen into this.
President Trump, will you come speak to us? President Trump?
Yeah. And he went right into the courtroom. We thought that he was going to come up to that camera, but change of plans to what we had been advised. And he just walked straight in there. So again, we are told that there is a still photographer who is in the courtroom who will...
There is a still photographer in the courtroom. And let's show you the photo. Let's pull up the photo that was taken inside the courtroom. There you have it right there. The first photograph of Donald Trump in the courtroom where the arraignment was taking place. You see his lawyer, Susan Necheles. You see Joe Tacopina. You see Boris Epstein. You see his legal team right there. This was, again, the first photograph taken inside there, and Donald Trump does not look triumphant. Donald Trump does not look anyway like he expected that this was going to go down. Let's also pull up Donald Trump's post, if we can, where he talks about, wow, they're actually going to arrest me. This was from his social media platform. He goes, headed to Lower Manhattan, the courthouse. Seems so surreal. Wow, they are going to arrest me. Can't believe this is happening in America. Then he goes, MAGA exclamation point. And there you have that post right there. And then in addition, if we can, let's just show Donald Trump's grift. This is not his real, this is not a real mugshot. There was no mugshot taken. Donald Trump is actually posting this right now on his, this is how he's grifting off of his supporters. If you look closely, he's claiming his height is 6'5", which it isn't. That's not a real mugshot, but he's selling mugshot T-shirts. The grifter in the biggest grifter in the history of the United States of America. Let's bring in Michael Popak. Michael Popak, quite the scene in New York courthouse today. And if Donald Trump thought this was going to be triumphant, if he thought this was going to be a good look for him, it's been anything but. And Michael Popak is my co-host on Legal AF and a MeidasTouch contributor. Michael Popak.
And in New York and in Manhattan, where I practice. So can we, Ben, thanks for having me on with the brothers to talk about this momentous day of an ex-president going into a courthouse, having been arraigned, and now hearing what the indictment against him is, what we think will be 34 counts, including felonies. And yes, a somber for him, Donald Trump. I don't know if he was expecting the adulation that comes at Mar-a-Lago.
Michael Popak, I want to interrupt with a breaking news alert. I want to make sure that our viewers are kept up to date on everything that's happening. Breaking news: Trump has officially pled not guilty to the 34 counts on falsifying business records. This is just breaking right now. Donald Trump pleading not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records. That has just crossed the wire right now. Michael Popak.
Yeah. Well, we'll get more detail on that. Right now, we're reporting it as falsifying business records for each of the 34 counts. I don't think we have a clarity yet, although they were read in court, of exactly the indictment. So stay tuned for us to unpack that. There'll certainly be a fair number of falsifying business records, but I also expect there to be conspiracy and the second crime that's necessary to make this a felony, and we'll report on that. But back to Donald Trump's entrance. This is Manhattan. The MAGA have stayed away or are not in large numbers. And so he didn't have much. I don't know who he was waving to. I think that was a phony wave on the way in. And of course, he blew past the Fox News setup there. I guess that was a pitch and catch and a swing and a miss for Donald Trump, not in the mood. Can we go back to the photo of the defense team? I want to make an observation. The person that's closest to us, there is the new lawyer for Donald Trump that just got hired, Todd Blanche, formerly a lawyer for people like Paul Manafort. He was at a major firm in New York called Cadwalader. He actually left his partnership at Cadwalader in order to represent Donald Trump. There's one microphone there between him. It's not even between him. It's in front of Mr. Blanche. Susan Necklace next to him. To me, even though Tacopina has a microphone too, Donald Trump does not, of course. It looks like to me that the lead lawyer for today looks to be Mr. Blanche, but we'll have to get more details on that. Joe Tacopina doing cartoon doodling down there because he's been charged with babysitting Donald Trump. And that's why I think he's so far down the hall there with Boris Epshteyn, who brought Blanche in because he'd represented Boris Epshteyn, who's sort of the Michael Cohen of today for Donald Trump. Also someone who's in the crosshairs of the federal investigation. Whenever you talk about lawyers for Donald Trump, you got to talk about them being a part of federal investigations. And Boris Epshteyn is also in the middle, Jack Smith looking at him. But today he's playing the role of consigliere to Donald Trump, putting him at the table, but not a speaking role, which is why we see him. So that's the guy in the three-piece suit that's balding on the far right of the picture over the shoulder of Tacopina. So that's how this room is shaken down. You see Susan Necklace there with her rule book, her New York criminal code book, I'm sure, as they make their arguments. Once Donald Trump has now pled not guilty to each of the counts, we'll see the lawyers stand up and make various motions in front of Judge Merchan, and we'll report on them as we get more information about them as the day progresses.
And more information we have. This is breaking right now. The indictment has allegedly been unsealed. We will try to find a copy of the indictment. There is a conspiracy count in the indictment. So Trump has been charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records and conspiracy charges. So things are getting really real fast for Donald Trump. Michael Popak, what do you make of the conspiracy counts?
Yeah, that's why I don't think it's going to be 34 counts of falsifying. It's going to be related to falsifying. That's the conspiracy. Karen Friedman-Agnifilo, our co-anchor, and Ben and I talked about this, Brett, about this conspiracy. Even if it's a misdemeanor conspiracy, gives the prosecutor a lot of leverage to tie together in a spoke and a hub an entire criminal enterprise and put Donald Trump at the center of it as the mastermind of this enterprise, and then have unindicted co-conspirators who I'm sure will be either named or by initial in the indictment. Unindicted co-conspirator Michael Cohen, unindicted co-conspirator Kellyanne Conway, unindicted co-conspirator David Pecker of the National Enquirer, and so on and so on. Those people are generally going to be unindicted because the prosecutors made a decision to give them immunity when they testified, and or they've already served their time, like Michael Cohen, for the crime and won't be charged again. So the biggest thing that happened before today is that Donald Trump took one look at his defense team and said, we need a cleanup hitter. We need a bigger, better, badder lawyer. And I think that is the guy that he's now hired, who's now come in. He's had success, for instance, and I'm pointing to, he's not in that photo actually. He's to the right of Susan Necklace, but the one I think is going to take the lead is Todd Blanche. Now, Joe Tacopina on all of his appearances, that's the guy there to the closest to us in the photo. I think he's going to be the lead. Although Joe Tacopina has said there's no lead. Trust me, I've done this for a long time. There's a lead trial lawyer. There may be parts that are given out to other people. Maybe Susan Necklace is going to do battle over procedural issues and argue motions. And Joe Tacopina is going to go on television, apparently. But the guy that's like responsible for legal strategy and being the lawyer in front of a jury and maybe a judge for major issues, I think it's going to be Blanche, the guy that we just saw. The guy doesn't leave.
Popok, Blanche lost the Manafort case, did he not?
Well, not exactly. No. He came in and was able to convince the appellate court in New York that the Manhattan DA prosecuting him for the same or similar real estate fraud that the feds had already done amounted to double jeopardy, and he got the case dismissed by the appellate court on double jeopardy grounds. So he is a rock star in that MAGA Manafort world. And, people like Igor Fruman, who was a associate of Lev Parnas, who was an associate of Giuliani in the Ukrainian issue, went to him as the lawyer. We talked about Boris Epstein, the guy at the far end of the table with the three-piece suit, uses him. So you don't leave a multi-million-dollar partnership at a major firm in New York to go on your own or go work with Susan Necklace because you're not a powerhouse. I think he's going to take the lead here.
And one of the things that we're hearing, and again, at some point, we're going to actually see the indictment, but this is just from some of the sources out there saying that the indictment pertains to two women, therefore kind of suggesting that it's not only involves Stormy Daniels, but also Karen McDougal. And that was the catch and kill scheme whereby the National Enquirer paid $150,000 to Karen McDougal, who Donald Trump had a sexual encounter with, to buy the rights to her story and to never republish it again. That was right before the election in 2016. And that would otherwise be a campaign contribution, right? You can't just give a benefit to someone for $150,000 right before the election. So, well, obviously, with the indictment being unsealed, we hope to have access to that soon and be able to read it. But
what's interesting about that, Ben, is if we're right, and I think we are, that this is how Alvin Bragg got right with the case. He made it about a broader catch and kill conspiracy with Donald Trump at the center. And apparently, according to Lanny Davis, the lawyer for Michael Cohen, your podcast host here on the MeidasTouch Network, he said that Michael not only has evidence, including documentary evidence and maybe recordings of Donald Trump arranging the Stormy Daniels payment, that also Michael Cohen has proof about Donald Trump's involvement in the Karen McDougal payment. And the interesting thing from his memoir, as we said on Legal AF recently, is that according to Michael, the only reason that David Pecker for the National Enquirer didn't make the direct payment to Stormy Daniels is because he made the payment on behalf of Donald Trump, looking to be reimbursed the $150,000 to Karen McDougal, but Trump never paid him. This does not sound surprising. And so he didn't do it again. He said, fool me once. And he had Michael Cohen do it off of his funds and then do the cover up and this is where we got into the false records. If Pecker had done it, we would have had to have seen what the false record would have been and how he repaid Pecker. Here, it actually created the crime because Donald Trump didn't pay David Pecker and required Cohen to be the straw man. That gave rise to the misdemeanor and the felony crime he's being charged with.
Popok, what do you make of what appears to be in typical Trumpian fashion, another miscalculation, right, of Donald Trump having the ability to do this arraignment via Zoom in a less high-profile situation? He wanted this. He thought he would be show up as this conquering hero. But as all of these photos that we've been showing, I mean, he looks weak. He looks defeated. He looks like he was just like hit with something. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, that's interesting because in a way, it probably would have looked worse for him to be like in a Zoom box, a 1-by-1 box, like any other common criminal who does video remote appearances in court, usually wearing orange or tan or whatever that state puts their convicts in. So I don't think thinking ahead and being the media ringleader that he is, I don't think he wanted that. He didn't want what we're doing right now to be for his followers, for his cult people, for his grift, for his fundraising. He wanted to march up the stairs. The problem is in his mind, he knows that he's defeated. He knows he's been indicted, twice impeached, now indicted, now arraigned. He had to say not guilty to 34 counts of a criminal case. And he knows there's 2 other ones or more out there between Jack Smith and Fani Willis. Even on this guy, it has to weigh on you. He just underestimated and miscalculated what it would look like body language wise for him to go up these steps. I guess he thought he'd be buoyed by having people, Marjorie Taylor Greene and the young Republicans screaming his name. But look, that's not the way it is in lower Manhattan by this courthouse. And they didn't get close enough to be able to give him that home court boost at all.
And I want to show you this footage too, because all the losers came out for Donald Trump, and by all by all I mean two. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then you had George Santos. Just want to show everybody the clip of George Santos first arriving, and then George Santos quickly leaving. So first, let's show Santos arriving. Play this clip.
Why are you here? Because I can be here.
Congressman, is any president above the law?
No. But is this DA going to start criminalizing criminals?
How do you know what?
Where's Hunter Biden's indictment? 2 years of a laptop full, a treasure trove of crime.
If the former president committed a crime, if he committed a crime, should he?
Is anybody accusing me of something? Are you judge and jury?
Congressman, if the former president committed a crime, should he be held accountable, though?
This is not that crime, though.
No, why not?
This is old news. All right,
so Congressman, say again, do you believe the president is above the law?
Are you okay down there?
People okay?
Your colleagues are.
You know I can make room, right?
Excuse me, let's go. Make some way. Make some way. What's the matter with you?
Ma'am, can we get some space?
Let's go. Make some room. Make some room.
If you see that, and then here's George Santos. Like, they showed up, they thought there was going to be this event. No one gives a crap about them in New York. They're like detested, and so here is Santos leaving after he's like, why is the media being mean to me and asking me actual questions? Here, play this clip.
I'm doing nothing. I'm leaving.
Are you coming back at all later today?
No, because you guys make it unbearable to be here.
Why are you here then?
I came to support the president, but
Popak.
The media makes it unbearable.
Or how about Marjorie Taylor Greene? This is Marjorie Taylor Greene showing up with her boyfriend, who I think she cheated on with her husband, and she wants to preach to everybody about family values. And here she's saying that Donald Trump is like Nelson Mandela or Jesus. I think we have this clip. I'll play this clip.
President Trump is joining some of the most incredible people in history being arrested today. Nelson Mandela was arrested, served time in prison. Jesus was arrested and murdered by the Roman government. There have been many people throughout history that have been arrested and persecuted by radical, corrupt governments. And it's beginning today in New York City. And I just can't believe it's happening, but I'll always support him. He's done nothing wrong.
And then I think we have the
Ben. How close was Marjorie Taylor Greene to saying Jesus was killed by the Jews?
I mean,
close, right?
Yeah.
By the way, I was thinking the same thing when she was saying it, and I think she had to tweak it in her head at the very end.
Agreed.
I picked up the same thing, Pope.
And this would normally be the case, Popak, but what we're learning now is that the Manhattan District Attorney told the court that the office is going to seek a protective order regarding the discovery that will be produced in this case. And a protective order is something that would would be standard. We haven't heard yet whether or not a gag order is being requested or anything like that, but a protective order is fairly par for the courts.
Let's explain that for a minute. So the government, in this case, the DA, has an obligation to turn over to the defense exculpatory evidence that could prove their innocence. We normally call it in the business Brady material. It's named after a case. And so in state court, it's similar. And they have to turn over things like the grand jury witness testimony for the 9 or so witnesses that testified, including Michael Cohen, David Pecker twice, Kellyanne Conway, all those transcripts. Those are all transcribed by court reporters, and they're available. And documentary evidence. For instance, the videos that Michael Cohen the recordings that Michael Cohen had audio of Donald Trump secretly, things like that. So there's evidence that's turned over, but of course the Manhattan DA doesn't want all of that to leak into the press at the current time, wants to just keep it with the defense for now. Of course, the defense can do whatever it wants, but if there's a protective order in place, everybody's going to have to keep it in the sandbox of the courtroom and the court system.
And for those watching right now, this is a camera that we have in the courthouse. And so about 20 minutes ago or so, we saw Donald Trump exit. Let's show this clip. This was from Fox when they had their cameras. We had our cameras in there as well. This was from Fox the moment Donald Trump exited after being arrested, booked, fingerprinted, and was entering the courtroom. Here, let's watch this moment.
So let's not forget that Alvin Bragg not only is he setting precedent for bringing criminal charges for the very first time in this nation's history against a former president, but he's taking a case. And this is the hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels back in 2016, just before the election. He's taking a case that the feds said they wouldn't prosecute. Here comes the former president. Let's just listen into this.
President Trump, will you come speak to us? President Trump?
Oh, that was just phenomenal. Yeah. And he went right into the courtroom. We thought that he was going to come up to that camera, but change of plans to what we had been advised. And he just walked straight in there. So again, we are told that there is a still photographer who is in the courtroom who will.
Did you see that there was that one moment, I don't know if you caught it, where the police officer did not hold the door for him and just let it slam on him?
It's a good catch.
That's such a good catch.
Yeah.
That's the first floor.
And just remember, by the way, what he's been saying and what the Trump people have been pushing, because all they do is lie about things. So they were like, the police, they're going to be surrounding him and hugging him and giving him kisses and asking for autographs. And nope, slam the door on your face, loser.
Let me tell you, I'll just show you New Yorkers. I was at a restaurant about 45 minutes ago in Midtown, and the conversation behind me, which is typical New York, was, sorry I'm late, it's all that Trump shit.
Yeah, that's the best way to sum it up. Like, he thinks he's going to get a hero's welcome. And that's why before you came on, Popak, when we were speaking about the protests, I was like, here's the thing about the protests. Most of those people, if not all of those people who are actually protesting, I'm sure are not even from New York, because New Yorkers don't give a shit. This is another day for New Yorkers. There's always chaos. There's always action. New York is one of the liveliest cities. People have other crap to do.
My office is near. Yeah, my office is near the United Nations. You should see it when the General Assembly is in session. But I sent you guys, because we were, of course, preparing for today. The greatest quote I've seen so far, so New York, was a former FBI agent that said, the thing that happened at Jan 6, that insurrection thing with all those people, and not happening in New York, primarily because of parking and tolls. The tolls you have to pay to get into the city are about $25 a pop through bridges and tunnels, and parking is really tight in New York. So that's going to keep away all of Trump's supporters and anarchists and insurrectionists.
And we showed you that clip there of Donald Trump entering the courtroom, but we also had video of Alvin Bragg entering as well. Yeah. So here's a clip of Alvin Bragg entering the courtroom as well. And, you know, what I like about Alvin Bragg being there, it's the same thing remember when the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, was there at Donald Trump's deposition? I mean, she didn't have to be there at the deposition. She could have had an assistant attorney general just take it. And similarly here, Alvin Bragg could have an assistant be there as well. But they're there themselves. And remember what happened with New York Attorney General Letitia James, for all of Donald Trump's bravado and calling her these horrific racist names. When he sat across from her and she asked the most basic questions of him, right? What's the valuation of Mar-a-Lago? What's the valuation of Bedminster? What's the valuation of Trump Tower? What's the valuation of this apartment complex? And what's the appraisal? And you say you run the best business. So why is there a difference between the appraised value that you put on your statements of financial condition versus the valuations that you use to get preferred lending terms and to get advantages on your taxes? Why is that? I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth over 400 times. And that's the thing, right, that we talked about before on this broadcast, which is that you have to confront his unlawful nature. You have to confront his lawlessness, right? You have to, for the sake of true law and order. Because when law and order runs its course as it's supposed to, you see Donald Trump looking like this. Just pull up the photos of Donald Trump as he's leaving, Donald Trump in the courtroom. Just look at the face of someone who is scared, someone who is terrified. Yeah, he's behind his social media.
Sorry, Ben.
I know, and it looks like we just lost Ben potentially. Ben.
But
Popok, what do you think about these photos?
Brett,
Yes,
the picture just before that one, they should put that on the T-shirts for the fake mugshot, because that's really what he looks like.
Yeah, that's what he really looks like. He really looks like a scared, weak, terrified person, and not the 6'5" projecting strength Trump likes to like he likes to show.
Yeah, it's not that photo. That's the Photoshop photo. Put the real photo from the one where he looks scared coming through the door. And to Ben's point, I'm pretty sure they held the door for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe we have that footage of Bragg, don't we, Salty? If we could, let's play the footage of Bragg.
Oh, yeah, they kept the door open. Same guy. I don't know if it's the same guy, but they kept the door open for him.
They kept the door open for Bragg as Bragg made his way into the courthouse. I mean, it could not be clearer how these people feel about Donald Trump. And I think finally reality has to be setting in for the guy.
That's what I sense. You guys did a great job covering Waco and covering the Fox News interview. This looks like a man defeated. He doesn't realize the body language that he's giving off but even he, this is like, pinning down Gulliver. You've got this in the back of his mind, Fani Willis probably in May with an indictment, Jack Smith bringing, stripping away executive privilege and attorney-client privilege from everybody that's been around Donald Trump and forcing them to testify. A federal judge just 2 weeks ago saying it's more likely than not he committed a crime about Mar-a-Lago documents. The Secret Service testifying on Friday for Jack Smith in one of 3 at least federal grand juries. This has got to be going on in his mind when he's coming through that door, not realizing he's on camera.
Yeah. And, with Trump, he always, as Ben calls it, the rule of holes or the law of holes, where, a defendant keeps digging and makes his issue worse and worse and worse for himself. Donald Trump, what he is good at is he is the king of the rule of holes. And you could be sure that put in this situation with his back against the wall, that Donald Trump will now begin to make moves and make statements that will frankly doom him in the court of law. I mean, we say now that he's arrested, right? You have the right to remain silent. Anything can and will be used against you in the court of law. And we're already hearing, and we'll get this clip shortly, but we're hearing that the judge is saying, yes.
Sorry, do you have an update?
Yeah, no, we're just hearing that the judge right now, Judge Merchan, is speaking about in the court his concern about Trump's bombastic rhetoric. And he's making that very clear. And so
bombastic rhetoric, almost social truthed out up the courthouse steps all the way in. What we're observing with you, just doing a little psychoanalytics here, having been in a courtroom for most of my career, the first thing you got to teach a young lawyer and a client is that from the moment, even before the moment you step into the courtroom, everybody can see you. Jurors in the hallway, courtroom personnel, the press. Donald Trump has having not been dragged into a courtroom like this really ever. And that's the point, is not experienced and hasn't been properly coached by his disaster recovery team, his PR team, to realize that as soon as he came up that step and came out of that door and entered that courtroom, every moment was on camera and in view. One day it'll be in view of a jury, and they pick up on everything. The way a camera doesn't lie, the jury watches for any wrinkle of a forehead or slagging or sagging shoulders. And he has not been coached properly by his team. And this is the real transparent Donald Trump, defeated at this moment. You can tell from the body language. The photos alone tell more than 1,000 words.
And folks, I need to report this here, and we're not going to show the images, but this is truly horrific. But Donald Trump Jr. has just posted a picture of the judge's daughter on Truth Social. So now they're coming after the judge's daughter. Just completely despicable. And I hope that the judge is watching and is being informed.
Right at the moment when the judge is considering a gag order?
Right at the moment, yes. And so there it is, image redacted. Seems relevant. Yet another connection in this handpicked Democrat show trial. Daughter of judge on Trump case, worked on Biden-Harris campaign. So here you have Donald Trump Jr. Really trying to stoke stochastic terrorism against the judge's family, trying to cause violence against the judge's family. And we've seen this happen now multiple times from his father, like father, like son, attacking Alvin Bragg's wife, attacking the judge, attacking the judge's daughter. This is their MO. They attack the family members of these people. That is,
and by the way, Brett, that scares away the MAGA Republicans. Like, they're intimidated by those posts. And I get that it is scary, right? But they're like, oh, they're going to post a meme of me, or they're going to post a photo of me. But that's why, no one's above the law, right? That's why law and order is so important, and why you have Alvin Bragg, Manhattan District Attorney, who is very courageous, but is just following the law. And this is why you have to follow the law. When you follow the law too, you'll immediately see all of the lawlessness around it, right? Like, you see, they can't help themselves, these MAGA fascist traitors. They can't. I mean, how despicable can you get, posting a photo of Judge Merchan's daughter, of the judge's daughter?
And look at the hypocrisy. It's okay for Clarence Thomas's wife to be writing amicus briefs filed in the Supreme Court in favor of MAGA right-wing foundations that she's a part of, and have that not disclosed and have him sit on those cases. They're okay with that. They're okay with wives of husbands who are judges and vice versa when it's in their favor. But family members, whether wives, daughters, and beyond, are allowed to have a life, an active life, a political life, if they so choose, while their parents are also judges. That is okay. And it's only not okay when Don Jr. wants to raise money by doxing this poor woman because she's got a civic and political life independent from her father. She's not a child in that sense.
At the same time, Don Jr. was posting that photo, essentially threatening the judge's daughter, right? As Donald Trump threatens Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's wife. This is what we were learning about the rhetoric that the judge is very concerned about here. Let's play this clip.
The prosecutor went on to say that Mr. Trump has made recent threatening emails and speeches, both directed at New York City, the courts here in New York, the justice system, and the district attorney's office. He said that these are irresponsible social media posts that threaten death and destruction, and even World War III. He said that these public statements to the district attorney, which included a photo of him swinging a baseball bat towards the district attorney's head, was very concerning. They're concerned about this and what effect it will have on potential jurors and witnesses. But they said that this will not dissuade the office, and they're seeking a protective order regarding discovery materials. They're very concerned that some of the attorneys or some of this may be leaked, or that President Trump himself would use some of that discovery in a way that would compromise the potential trial. They began discussing conditions of release. They talked about how defense attorney Joe Tacopina had communications with Stormy Daniels, and that could present a conflict. In response, Todd Blanche, representing Mr. Trump, said that the people just spoke for 10 minutes. They haven't seen discovery. They talk about Michael Cohen, and Michael Cohen has been standing on the steps of this courthouse revealing all kinds of material that will be relevant in the trial. Mr. Trump has sorry, I'm just being moved here. They say that Mr. Trump has responded forcefully and clearly. He's very upset. He's frustrated, and he believes that this is an injustice. The hearing is going on right now. The judge said that he's taking the rhetoric and the language he's using, and he's very concerned about it. Blanche then said, well, this is free speech. He talked about the investigator, Mark Pomerantz, who wrote specifics. I'm going to have to toss it back to you, Lester.
So what you had right there, you had a reporter who was actually in the courtroom talking about all of these specific things, right, that were being said, all of the things that were actually going on in real time, to the point where the reporter had to eventually throw it back. But you saw the argument that was being made. It didn't sound like they were even asking for a gag order. It seemed like they were asking for Popok just a protective order over the documents and the records, right? But they wanted to preview for the judge all of the threats that were there. So what you had happen was the district's attorney went first. They said, here are all the threats that are being made, and outlined all of the posts that were being done by Donald Trump on his social media platform. Then Trump's lawyers responded, and they said, this is free speech. This is Donald Trump just using his free speech rights. And then the judge responded, actually, I'm very concerned about the threats that Donald Trump is making. So that basically what the reporter was describing there. Did you hear basically this?
Yeah, from that, but this is the beginning. It's going to be the exact same arguments when it comes to the gag order. I'm sure somebody in that room who's a lawyer who didn't have to check his phone in the locker is going to see what Breitbart posted, doxing the daughter of the judge, and the prosecution, I'm sure, is going to bring that up when it gets to the gag order time. But back to what I said earlier, it is clear right now, at least for this arraignment and the early motions practice on their feet, that Todd Blanche, who just got hired 2 days ago, not Susan Neckles, not Joe Tacopina, is in the first chair, which we in the business like to call the lead trial lawyer, at least for today, for all arguments. Former prosecutor, has a successful career, probably the most credible person in that room, more of a federal practice than a state practice, but he's got Susan Neckles next to him to handle some of the more intricate state court arguments. But yeah, that's where I think they are. But it is it'll be a combined mixing of these two arguments when it comes to very same facts will be laid out by the prosecutor when they get around to the gag order, which I think this judge is going to be inclined to grant in some way, shape, or form, while still protecting Donald Trump's right and First Amendment right to campaign for the presidency again.
Popok. So what we are now waiting for, right, is for these court proceedings to end. We'll learn more about the gag order at that point in time. What we expect to happen is Alvin Bragg is expected to give a press conference in the next 20 or 30 minutes. It should be sooner than that, but based on it was announced to be sooner than that, but based on the current status of these court proceedings, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to start at 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern, which is when it was set. But we expect there to be an Alvin Bragg press conference. We have our cameras at the MeidasTouch network actually in the courthouse right now. We have cameras throughout the building and all the places that press is permitted to be at. So we'll be able to cover that here with our own cameras. But based on the way events are turning out so far, Popok, just what are your overall observations about how today has gone so far, with Donald Trump showing up, being arrested, being booked, leaving, having that, that face where he looked like he was defeated and deflated, going into the courtroom. What do you make of today's proceedings?
Well, this is what happens when you add your lead trial lawyer 48 hours before your first major arraignment. You're not properly prepared. Donald Trump was delusional about the conquering hero that he thought he was going to be marching up the steps. And no one properly coached him. I'm not saying poor Donald Trump. I'm just making an observation. No, he's not properly coached on how every behavior, facial expression, the body language of his from the moment he got out of that black SUV, climbed the stairs, came out of the back off arraignment into the courthouse would be observed and photographed and filmed, just like you and I, Ben, tell our clients in a courtroom and remind ourselves the jury is watching you, everything you do, every moment that you do it. He, in a moment a moment I don't think he intended.
Hold on, Popak. We're seeing Donald Trump leave right now.
Yep.
Looks like he's going back in through the back door exit. The cameras are at the front, so by going through that back door exit with his lawyers, it's not clear if that just means he's not going to be speaking to the media at all, if he's just trying to get the heck out of there.
Well, I think he's getting outside. He's going to do it. If he's going to do it, he's going to do it outside on courthouse steps or somewhere in the park across the street or something like that. I also believe you. I agree with you, Ben. I don't believe he's going to wait 6 hours and 6 hours of a news cycle to get back to Mar-a-Lago tonight to make the first statement like Eva Perón on the balcony of Mar-a-Lago. He's going to do something, I think, right now. Although,
as you see, Popak, I want to let all of our viewers know this. Just as we told you, we have our cameras everywhere. And these are all MeidasTouch Network proprietary cameras. So you're not going to miss a moment of what is taking place here because we have cameras at every angle. So now that he's coming from the back, you'll see our coverage of our camera from this angle, seeing when he comes out the back door. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you didn't interrupt. But I think it's going to be an outdoor event if he's going to do it. And I don't think he's going to wait. I'd be shocked, although Fox News was also shocked that he didn't come over to a pre-arranged camera setup before he entered the courtroom, having a lot on his mind at that moment, 3 separate prosecutions. But I think he's going to do it outside, or he's so defeated and deflated that even he can't muster up his normal false bravado and is going to get whisked away and put on the plane back from LaGuardia to Mar-a-Lago and then do it there when they've pumped him up with whatever they pump him up with before he goes out on the balcony.
Well, we have our cameras right there so that no one will miss a single moment of what is taking place. And let's watch right now if he is headed out into the SUVs. And it looks like we see Secret Service there.
The Secret Service might have a thing or two to say about whether he's going to do a public speech outside. There's only so much they could do to coordinate all of that, and they certainly don't want an incident with Donald Trump.
Well, I don't think the Secret Service has any control over him at all, and the Secret Service did not want this to go down the way they wanted this to be a Zoom arraignment that he overruled. But
safety standpoint.
Yeah. But if he wanted to do a press statement, Secret Service would have no say over that. He would do it if he felt this was a triumphant, victorious day for him. He would go out and do that. But every moment we've seen so far was him looking completely and utterly defeated and cowardly, like the traitor that he is.
Other than rallies, that's the way he's looked lately. When he does the thing at Mar-a-Lago, when he does the Fox News interview, he doesn't even realize, and no one can speak truth to power to him. He doesn't trust anybody to tell him you don't look great on these interviews.
And there it is. It looks like he is just headed out
in a van,
defeated like the fascist traitor loser that he is. And as I said, there's a lot of media networks that are out there saying right now that today was a somber day for our nation. Today was a sad day for our nation. No, today was a great day for our nation. And it is a great day with more great days to come as Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, gets ready to criminally indict Donald Trump, as Jack Smith continues on with his investigation. There is more great news to come. And we have a press conference that's about to start by the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. So everybody make sure you
Ben,
stay here.
Do you notice the signs, by the way, that Trump is being greeted with? You see "Convict Trump" signs right there. Convict Trump. That's what he is seeing, rather than
those
seeing
MeidasTouch convict or convict.
They're not, but we do have some
convict
incredible
45 shirts at store.MeidasTouch.com. And I want to let everybody know this. I want to let everyone know, for scheduling purposes, though, what's going to be taking place. We're about to bring you live coverage of the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's press conference. We have our cameras there. That's expected to take place at any moment. Then at around 2, it's potentially 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. We're going to bring Michael Cohen on. Michael Cohen is going to react to today's events for the first time here on the MeidasTouch network on our political beatdown. So for you to get Michael Cohen's perspective, who is the key witness in this case, who is my co-host on Political Beatdown, that will take place likely 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. And also make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Right now, we're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers. This is the fastest growing independent media channel in the world. And I say probably the fastest just media channel in general, fastest growing media channel in general, thanks to all the pro-democracy loving people out there who are tired of being gaslit by large media networks who want to normalize this traitorous, fascist behavior of Donald Trump and the MAGA Republican movement. Popak, let me throw it to you.
The New York Times is reporting that it's 34 felony counts.
Yep.
So not just a felony count among 34, that, as we predicted on Legal AF, Alvin Bragg spending 1.5 years, and then since January, solved the puzzle, solved the problem that others thought couldn't be done, which was how to make a felony, and he made it 34 times in an indictment.
Great update right there. Brett, what are your thoughts on these developments as we get ready for Alvin Bragg? And you see the toggling with all of the various cameras right now there. Donald Trump not making any speeches. Donald Trump not out there celebrating. Marjorie Taylor Greene. And by the way, that is what justice looks like, right, Brett?
Absolutely. And one thing is for sure, today is not the day that Donald Trump envisioned it to be. Today did not go as Donald Trump planned. Today was all out of Donald Trump's control. For a guy who likes to control the narrative, who likes to control what is said about him, who likes to control his image, today all of that was in the hands of Manhattan prosecutors. And you see that New York right there, absolutely disgusted by her. And we're going to shift right now. We got some other cameras in the press office of the Manhattan DA. So we're going to switch over just momentarily, as we just got our cameras over in that room. And I'm looking at the camera feed over here, and I'll tell you, there is a lot of shuffling going on in that room right now. Looks like a lot of reporters who are in that room are moving quickly. Looks like there's going to be some action there very soon. And we'll hopefully be hearing from Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. This is absolutely historic, folks. And, you know, you see all the things coming home to roost for Donald Trump, all the statements that he makes, all the threats, all the bravado. That's not going to play now that he is a criminal defendant. Donald Trump has often found himself on other sides of the law in terms of civil cases and in terms of being able to pay money to make his problems go away and to use his delay tactics and whatnot. Donald Trump has never been a criminal defendant like this. His organization has, but not him personally. And his organization was convicted in New York, I should say. So this is an absolutely historic.
And Brett, it comes down to it's a number, right? Popak. There's now an indictment number, right? Popak 71543-23.
That's all he is. That's what he's reduced to. That and a CUSIT number for any criminal defendant. He's been given that number. They gave him the courtesy. We'll talk about it later. No mugshot. He'll create his own, apparently, of a triumphant, valiant Donald Trump. For those that saw him, the New York Times, for instance, as our cameras reported, said a visibly angry Donald Trump entered the courtroom of Judge Juan Merchan. So, yeah, he was not coached properly on how not to let his feelings show. He wore his heart and all of his emotions on his sleeve today, which will eventually be his undoing in front of a criminal jury.
Popak, a great day for our country. And so let's go and let's just do a little bit of a recap of what went down, right? So first you have Marjorie Taylor Greene showing up, and she thinks this is going to be a great event, but and that all these people are going to greet her. She's been talking about these protests, and then she gets there, and then there's like a lot of people who are just like with these whistles, but like she can't really find any of the protesters. So do we have the clip, Salty, of her arriving and like you see all the people whistling?
And Ben's got to learn how to plug in his laptop, because Ben's laptop keeps dying on him is what's happening. But
live TV, ladies and gentlemen, live TV.
It happens. But first, before we get into these Marjorie Taylor Greene clips again, which I could just honestly watch all day long, I want to tell you right now that at 3:45 Eastern Time, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg is scheduled to give his statement to the press. So we got our cameras in there ready to go. 3:45 Eastern Time, Alvin Bragg is scheduled to speak. We see the cameras in there right now. We see the reporters trying to figure out what is going on. But let's go through these clips of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's show Marjorie Taylor Greene the warm New York welcome that she received as she tried to protest this.
I've been in the Bronx for the Yankees against an opponent like the Red Sox. I'm sure it matches.
They call it an old Bronx cheer. Let's
cheer.
Let's take a look.
Behind you, man. Behind you. Get out of the way. Back up.
And folks, this is also breaking news. We now have obtained a copy of the indictment against Donald Trump. We've got a copy. It is 16 pages. Let me at least read the beginning of it. And Popak, I'll let you stop me at any point if I'm boring you or if you want to interject in any way. But we see here on the top, Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of New York, the people of the state of New York against Donald Trump. Defendant. That right there in and of itself should just give you the chills. The grand jury of the County of New York by this indictment accuses the defendant of the crime of falsifying business records in the first degree in violation of Penal Law 175.10, committed as follows. The defendant in the County of New York and elsewhere on or about February 14th, 2017, with intent to defraud and attempt to commit other crime and aid and conceal the commission thereof, made and caused a false entry in the business records of an enterprise, to wit, an invoice from Michael Cohen dated February 14th, 2017, marked as a record of the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust and kept and maintained by the Trump Organization. So Michael Cohen right there at the top of this indictment. Second count. And as the jury at first said, by this indictment further accused the defendant of the crime of falsifying business records in the first degree. The defendant in the County of New York and elsewhere on or about February 14th, 2017, with intent to defraud and intent to commit another crime and aid and conceal the commission thereof, made and caused a false entry in the business records of an enterprise, to wit, an entry in the detailed general ledger for the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust, bearing voucher number 842457, and kept and maintained by the Trump Organization, and then proceeds to go through the rest of the counts, which I won't bore you with reading all 34 of these, but you have falsifying business records.
Can I do it, hey, Brett? Can we do it this way? It'll be a little bit more efficient. The first round of them have to do, as most prosecutors do, with a series of checks or payments, all related to the same crime. It may or may not list who the if that went to Stormy Daniels or it went to the other person, and that'll be a section. Then there'll be another section of a series of crimes that relate to another series of checks. So maybe if you can scroll through and thumb through, you can sort of get a gist of, is this Stormy Daniels? Is this Karen McDougal? And what is the felony or the second crime? We have the first crime. What's the second crime that jacks this up to the felony, even though it's a first-degree felony, which in New York sounds really bad, but it's actually the lowest level.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, as you look through these, the writing on basically every single count is basically the same, and each one comes with a different check number.
Right.
That it is referring to. So you go through, check voucher number 876511.
And the reason, Brett, for that is we know from other reporting, including from Michael Cohen, that and Karen has reported on this on our Legal AF, that there was something like 11 to 14 checks that were ultimately paid to Michael Cohen to reimburse him for the hush money payment. So each one of those checks becomes a criminal count, separate and apart, whether sometimes it's called mail fraud or wire fraud, but they'll do that. That's how these things go from, why isn't it just 2 counts? Because every check is a separate independent crime.
And when these things are, okay, say, I know I'm getting way ahead of myself here, right? But say through all the delays, through all the process, Donald Trump is convicted on these crimes. Are these concurrent sentences? Are these consecutive sentences? How is that determined in general?
Yeah, it's usually concurrent for a crime like this. It would be, it's not happening that it would be consecutive. It would be, they're all going to be together, served at the same time. And that's why we think ultimately, although I'll need to dive into this a little bit better with you, and as the show progresses, we think ultimately it's at best up to a 4-year sentence, and not mandatory. In other words, the judge has discretion. The top end of the scale is 4 years, and all of that. And while we're talking, Brett, I'm going to take a look at it as well, and see if I see anything of interest. I'll bring it up as you're walking through it. Yeah.
And Popok, would the conspiracy charges be within this document? Would they be another? Like, where do we see the conspiracy? Because just looking through, I see a lot of the falsifying business records.
Well, let me do it with a little quicker. So third up to the 5th count, 6th count is all different entries in the ledger matching check payments that were made by the Trump organization, I presume, back to Michael Cohen. And then we're already through 8 of those. Let me just see what else. Here we go. Falsified business record with intent to defraud and intent to commit another crime and an aid in concealment off an invoice from Michael Cohen. That is the 8th count. So we know we're in the Michael Cohen world there. And we have general ledger falsification. So you have multiple records that are also being covered by these counts. The general ledger of the company is being falsified. The check ledger or the checking or trust account is being falsified. So every time, they couldn't help themselves. They couldn't just leave it blank. The ray line on the bottom of a check, they wrote legal retainer Michael Cohen. And that's account. Now that's account. They should have just typed Exhibit A on the bottom of that. So far, I'm up to 11, and it's flipping back and forth between check registry falsification and general ledger falsification. For some of overlapping for the checks. Let me just see if I got to get out of this series.
So is that just dependent on the way that he actually paid the money, whether he paid via check, whether he paid via another means?
Well, it's check, and then how it was recorded on the general ledger, the general account, the QuickBooks, if you will, of the company. How is it then recorded? It's written on a ledger of a check, and then it's recorded in the general ledger, which ties back to other accounting records for tax purposes and for running your business. So far, I'm at the 25th count. It's all falsifying business records about different checks that were written, mainly to Michael Cohen.
That's why, folks, you want to stick around today for a little later in the day when Ben goes live with Michael Cohen, and we'll get Michael Cohen's perspective directly. I mean, who better to hear from than Michael Cohen, who is named many times throughout this recently unsealed indictment. And now I always find it fascinating to see how other publications kind of, are reporting the news, especially when they're the Murdoch owned papers. And what I find interesting right now about the headline on the New York Post website is this is how they explain it, Popak, and I want to get your take. They say, indictment unsealed. Trump faces 34 felony counts, carrying 136-year max sentence. So they do the worst possible outcome as their headline.
And that's a Rupert Murdoch paper.
What do you make of that? And the Post recently, I mean, their headlines have been absolutely ruthless against Trump throughout this case. You pointed out the other day.
Rupert Murdoch is covering his bets, and he's now using the sharpened knives of the New York Post to go after Donald Trump in any way they can paint him in an unflattering light, while still retaining the Republican readership of that paper. Right? It's a careful tightrope. He doesn't want to lose the Republicans that read that paper, but he also wants to separate from Donald Trump. And this is how he thinks he's doing it. I don't know what their circulation numbers, if they're up or down based on these headlines, but they've certainly made an editorial decision to go after Donald Trump and paint him unflatteringly.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that Joe Tacopina is being interviewed right now. We'll try to see if we could find any footage or any clips of that soon. But it'll be interesting to hear what Tacopina is saying in the midst of all of this, what all of Donald Trump's lawyers are saying. Per MSNBC, the indictment also includes a $30,000 payment to silence a doorman at one of Trump's buildings who allegedly had information about a child that Trump fathered. Wow. But
I don't know where they're getting that from. I'm reading the indictment. I don't see that mentioned in the indictment. So I don't know where they're getting that reporting from. We're going to have to
do a deep dive on this thing. And
who reported that?
MSNBC is reporting that. So it's not like Joe Schmo is reporting that. MSNBC. Let me repeat that, folks. MSNBC is reporting that the indictment includes a $30,000 payment to silence a doorman at one of Trump's buildings who allegedly had information about a child that Trump fathered.
Well, that has to be coming, Brett, from somebody that knows the ledger references. See, we don't know what ledger number, whatever, check registry number, whatever means. We don't know the sometimes amount is listed. Mostly it's not. Michael Cohen would know what those things are. People in the know would know what that is. And maybe somebody has said that count, that check number, that general ledger entry, that was the doorman. But we're not able to tell that. That's not patent. That's not obvious from reading it. That's from somebody having some other inside knowledge of what these different serial numbers mean.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I see people saying online things like, I remember that story. I remember those rumors swirling around at the time. So I think this was something that was reported maybe in the tabloids or things that people knew about. And I guess this confirms it here, if this reporting is in fact true. And it just shows you that the scope of this indictment is far greater than anybody anticipated. This is not simply a Stormy Daniels issue. This goes much further than that. This is repeated behavior by Donald Trump.
There is a story back in 2018 that's online about a love child payoff scandal involving a doorman. Allegedly, he had similar to Arnold Schwarzenegger, he had a child out of wedlock. This is the allegation, with a housekeeper in a building, and the doorman was paid off at Trump Tower where he lived, involving the same David Pecker American Media Group, a National Enquirer, as the other stories. So the question is whether that $30,000 payment by AMI and David Pecker was one of the original catch and kills having to do with it. And who knows that in reading this indictment about which of these many entries, which are sort of glossed over in business speak, equals the $30,000 payment to that doorman. If MSNBC is running with that story, they've got at least 2 or 3 corroborating witnesses to support it before they put that on the air.
And we have a statement of facts from the district attorney now up on the screen. Popak, do you want to read through these? You want me to read through these?
Yeah, why don't you do it, and I'll take a look at it on my phone.
Introduction. The defendant, Donald J. Trump, repeatedly and fraudulently falsified New York business records to conceal criminal conduct that hid damaging information from the voting public during the 2016 presidential election. 2. From August 2015 to December 2017, the defendant orchestrated a scheme with others to influence the 2016 presidential election by identifying and purchasing negative information about him to suppress its publication and benefit the defendant's electoral prospects. In order to execute the unlawful scheme, the participants violated election laws and made and caused false entries in the business records of various entities in New York. The participants also took steps that mischaracterized for tax purposes the true nature of the payments made in furtherance of the scheme. 3. One component of this scheme was that at defendant's request, a lawyer who worked for the Trump Organization as special counsel to defendant, lawyer A, covertly paid $130,000, so I got to assume here this is Michael Cohen, to an adult film actress shortly before the election to prevent her from publicizing a sexual encounter with the defendant. Lawyer A made the $130,000 payment through a shell corporation he set up and funded at a bank in Manhattan. The payment was illegal, and lawyer A has since pleaded guilty to making an illegal campaign contribution and served time in prison. Once again, that's Michael Cohen right there as lawyer A. Further, false entries were made in New York business records to effectuate this payment, separate and apart from the New York business records used to conceal the payment. 4. After the election, the defendant reimbursed lawyer A for the illegal payment through a series of monthly checks. First, from the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust, the defendant's trust, a Trump created under the laws of New York, which held the Trump Organization entity assets after the defendant was elected president, and then from the defendant's bank account. Each check was processed by the Trump Organization, and each check was disguised as a payment for legal services rendered in a given month of 2017 pursuant to a retainer agreement. The payment records kept and maintained by the Trump Organization were false New York business records. In truth, there was no retainer agreement, and lawyer A was not being paid for legal services rendered in 2017. The defendant caused his entity's business records to be falsified and disguise his and others' criminal conduct. Then they go into the background. 5. The defendant is the beneficial owner of a collection of business entities known by the trade name the Trump Organization, which comprises of approximately 500 separate entities.
So Brett,
yes,
Brett,
they go through.
Let's get to the doorman, paragraph 10.
Let's go to the doorman on paragraph 10. Let's skip on down. They talk about the catch and kill scheme. They talk about suppressing the doorman story here under B. A few months later, in or around October or November 2015, the AMI CEO learned, so that is David Pecker, learned that a former Trump Tower doorman, the doorman, was trying to sell information regarding a child that Trump had allegedly fathered out of wedlock. As Pecker's direction, AMI negotiated and signed an agreement to pay the doorman $30,000 to acquire exclusive rights to the story. AMI falsely characterized the payment in AMI's books and records, including its general ledger. AMI purchased the information from the doorman without fully investigating the claims, but the AMI CEO directed that the deal take place because of his agreement with Donald Trump and Michael Cohen. When AMI later concluded that the story was not true, the AMI CEO wanted to release the doorman from the agreement. However, Cohen instructed the AMI CEO not to release the doorman until after the presidential election, and the AMI CEO complied with that instruction because of his agreement with Trump and Michael Cohen.
In 13, go to 13, they're talking about Susan McDougal and the payment for $150,000 in the catch and kill program. In paragraph 14, they're talking about the secret audio tape that Michael Cohen recorded that we've actually played on Legal AF, in which Donald Trump said, how much? 150, do it in cash. All of that, that's now captured in paragraph 14. Paragraph 15 is going to the payments to Stormy Daniels and how that was paid through Michael Cohen. That starts actually in paragraph 16 after the Access Hollywood tape. So that whole section there, Brett, which is section D like David, is covering all things Stormy Daniels through Michael Cohen.
And that was Karen McDougal Popak, not Susan, just to clarify.
No, the 1/3. No, the 130 is not. It's Stormy Daniels. The 150.
Yeah, just wait, you said McDougal before. Just make sure.
Oh, okay. D is for Stormy. That's
Mhm.
the Stormy section. That's woman's lawyer, woman number 2. So as predicted, we have at least two people who are in the catch and kill program, but a third we'd never heard of, which is the doorman and whether true or not, at least Donald Trump's general counsel, Michael Cohen, thought it was something that should also be killed as part of the catch and kill program. Because remember, this introduction is all about the catch and kill program and its many tentacles.
Yeah, and I've got the CNN story up from August. This is from August 2015, 2018. And this says exclusive ex-Trump World Tower doorman's catch and kill contract released. And CNN back then had a copy of the AMI contract with the doorman. And I'll read just a little bit from this 2018 story. A former Trump World doorman who says he has knowledge of an alleged affair President Donald Trump had with an ex-housekeeper, which resulted in a child, is now able to talk about a contract he entered with American Media Inc. that had prohibited him from discussing the matter with anyone, according to his attorney. And CNN had exclusively obtained the source agreement at the time, which was signed on November 15th, 2015. We got Ben Meiselas back in here. I want to cede the floor to Ben now. He's been combing through these agreements after his technical issues, but now he's informed. He's got all the facts. He's read them all. Ben, what is your takeaway on your initial read of the indictment?
I love the New York Post headline, right? That Donald Trump could serve, what they say, 130 years. I mean, the reality is that for these specific offenses, I believe the high end, though, is 4 years. And that after a conviction, I do believe he'd serve jail time. I do not think that Juan Merchan is going to just let him go away with 0 jail time. So I think you are looking probably, more than a year, potentially 2 years. And depending on the type of sentence, how long it is, whether he starts off in Rikers or not. But you see how terrified he is of Rikers, right? Time he mentions Alan Weisselberg, who's in Rikers right now, you can just tell that Donald Trump dreads going to Rikers Island more than anything. But here's the thing I want to point out too. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office is still investigating other crimes, right? This doesn't mean that Alvin Bragg is no longer investigating the fraudulent valuation scheme that Donald Trump engaged in and Donald Trump's tax dodging and all of that. Alvin Bragg has pursued this sequentially. He first did the Trump Organization case, now the falsifying business records case, and then I think he's going to get to soon the Donald Trump broader falsification of business records, tax records, fraudulent valuations. And one of the things that Alvin Bragg has going for him as well is that New York Attorney General Letitia James civil fraud lawsuit where she's seeking at least $250 million, but likely billions of dollars, that's set to take place October 2nd of 2023. So Alvin Bragg can basically just wait, see what happens there, and then also bring criminal charges as the evidence develops there. But just think about Donald Trump's life over the next few weeks and months and where this is headed, right? You have on April 25th, E. Jean Carroll's rape trial against Donald Trump and defamation case. That's set to go to trial April 25th. You have the New York Attorney General Letitia James case. That's set to go to trial October 2nd, in addition to seeking potentially billions of dollars in monetary damages from Donald Trump, his adult children, and the Trump Organization. New York Attorney General Letitia James is also requesting an injunction and an injunctive relief that would basically stop the Trump Organization from doing business in the state of New York. You got the Fulton County District Attorney, which is set to, I think, criminally indict Donald Trump there in the next 2 to 3 months. You just have to watch the timing of all of this, and we're a very data-focused network here. So the next grand jury in Fulton County meets in May, and so I would expect there to be a late May, June, potentially July indictment of Donald Trump. Remember, the special grand jury made recommendations. Those recommendations almost certainly include a recommendation to criminally indict Donald Trump, but the special grand jury in Fulton County, Georgia, doesn't have indictment power. That report will go to a grand jury, and a grand jury then has the power to make those indictments. So I think that will happen soon. And then special counsel Jack Smith's multiple criminal investigations, one for election interference, one for Donald Trump's obstruction of justice and his theft of thousands of government records. Special counsel Jack Smith won a major victory this morning in the Court of Appeals, which rejected Donald Trump's claim of executive privilege regarding all of his top advisors like Mark Meadows and Stephen Miller and Dan Scavino and all of those corrupt people and other people who actually wanted to testify, but based on executive privilege had to wait for a order from the Court of Appeals. That order was handed down. So multiple criminal investigations by Jack Smith, and then you have multiple criminal investigations out of the Southern District of New York, federal prosecutors there regarding Trump media and potential crimes committed by Donald Trump, where a lot of whistleblowers who previously worked at Truth Social came forward and talked about a lot of criminal schemes taking place there. So there's a lot of accountability coming. And, to some extent, 4 years, is that a disappointing? Look, I could do what the New York Post is doing and just tell you 130 years, because technically if you add them all up, that's a possibility. I think the reality is it's more like 4 years for these charges. That's just, I tell the truth. That's more where this will probably end up. But nonetheless, real jail time, but it's just the start. And I think Alvin Bragg is then going to bring other charges as well in the next 6 months. And those other charges will carry with it more significant jail time as well. Brett, we've been saying this here on the MeidasTouch Network, and there has been a lot of people, though, who have doubted that that's where it was headed. And a lot of people, a lot of detractors, that's putting it gently, specifically about Alvin Bragg and the way Alvin Bragg handled things. And we had Alvin Bragg as a guest here on the MeidasTouch Network a few months back. We've always just been trying to say, here's what the data suggests. We try to avoid these media narratives and just say, here's what the data suggests is going to happen. That's why we predicted that Alvin Bragg would be the first to criminally indict on felony counts. And that's what happened. And I should also note from a scheduling standpoint that later this afternoon, in about an hour and a half, we should have Michael Cohen on here as well for Political Beatdown. And Michael Cohen will give us the first reaction to this, which is big. Let's pull up this clip as we wait for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. This is of Takapina and his statements following the arraignment today. Let's play this clip.
President not use language. He requested that everybody involved refrain from using language that's inappropriate. And by the way, that includes the witnesses for the people who are talking just
But it
as much.
also includes the former president swinging a baseball bat at the head of the Manhattan DA.
Well, I don't know where you got that, because if
That
you
was a tweet sent out by the former president.
no, it wasn't. And first of all, that picture was not him swinging a baseball bat. I mean, if you want to distort the facts, go right ahead. I won't address that. Yes, it is. He wasn't swinging a baseball bat at anyone's head. That was a picture of him showing off an American-made bat. Someone else put a picture of the district attorney next to him, and in an article posted that. That's not his article. It's not his photos.
Not using language that incites.
Guys, here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the insufficiency of this case, and I will.
Okay.
Wow.
Like they can't even admit like what everybody saw with their own. Oh, Trump never posted that. Trump never did it. It's frankly embarrassing. Not a good start for Trump's lawyers. Trump's lawyers were immediately, and Donald Trump was warned by the judge not to make any inflammatory statements. And Trump, we'll see if he's able to help himself or not. But there was a clear warning from Judge Mershana in the court to Donald Trump. And at the same exact time that the judge made that statement, you had Don Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and Marjorie Taylor Greene all posting photos of that same judge's daughter. smearing his daughter, trying to stoke violence, frankly, against the judge's daughter. So you see how well they're already listening. These deflections from the attorneys, I don't think they realize how difficult the road ahead truly is for them right now. I mean, this is real. This is really real. And, there've been a lot of doubters along the way who have said, that we were selling hope, right? But no, you're selling hopium and you're selling, it's never going to happen. I'll believe it when I see it. And I understood the frustration going, but we are here. This happened. Donald Trump arrested, arraigned, read his rights, taken into court, indictment released. Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, ready to speak. Alvin Bragg has released a statement online so far with the full copy of the indictment. And we read from the indictment before, but Alvin Bragg just stated, Manhattan is home to the country's most significant business market. We cannot allow New York businesses to manipulate their records to cover up criminal conduct. As this office has done time and time again, we today uphold our solemn responsibility to ensure that everyone stands equal before the law. And I think that sums it up here, folks. And that's why I believe this is a day of celebration. Everyone is above the law in America. Everybody should be above the law in the United States of America. And this is the first step in actually showing that we stand by those ideals.
We are getting ready for a press conference to be given by Alvin Bragg. That should take place momentarily. That was scheduled for 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern. Obviously, the proceedings went a little longer than anticipated, but we are getting ready to bring you live this press conference from Alvin Bragg. And in addition to bringing you the press conference of Alvin Bragg, we hope to have a political beatdown featuring Michael Cohen. That will be taking place around 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern to get Michael Cohen's reaction. We wanted to wait, obviously, for political beatdown until the political beatdown podcast, of course, until we heard from Alvin Bragg and until we got additional information that we could share with you and important information. So let's just go back to what happened earlier in the day. Let's first pull up this clip of when Donald Trump first entered the courthouse right before he was arrested. He thought this was going to be a triumphant moment. It was anything but. Let's play this clip.
Place right behind where I'm standing now, a massive motorcade. Obviously, the Secret Service, the motorcade as well, getting into formation for a former president, stepping out of his vehicle. You see the Secret Service now stepping outside, taking a look around, massive Secret Service presence all along the street there. We're just awaiting him to step outside his vehicle once they have a handle of the security here. And then you see the former president there stepping out of his vehicle. He gave a wave to the crowd here, making his way into the building in which he'll be fingerprinted. And now, no, Katie, he will not, in fact, have a mugshot taken of him.
A wave, but a very serious look for Donald Trump as he makes his way into that building for what we have accurately described as a very...
So then he got arrested, he got booked, he got fingerprinted. What we see right now on screen as we prepare for Alvin Bragg's press conference, you see the board that he has up there talking about the catch and kill scheme. There's another demonstrative board showing people v. Donald J. Trump. If we can get the person's head out in front of our cameraman, that would be nice. Yeah, thank you. Let's pull open. You see what it's saying: $130,000 hush money payment, 34 counts of falsifying business records and invoices on general ledger. When Alvin Bragg starts the press conference shortly, you will see him and the other assistant district attorneys discussing those boards and their import as well. And we expect that to happen momentarily. And of course, we're going to bring you that live with our cameras that are there right now. So that was Donald Trump in the video we just showed you entering the courthouse. We'll show you Fox's reaction as Donald Trump left after being booked, after having his fingerprints taken, after being formally arrested. This is Donald Trump as he walked into the courthouse. Let's play this clip.
So let's not forget that Alvin Bragg not only is he setting precedent for bringing criminal charges for the very first time in this nation's history against a former president, but he's taking a case. And this is the hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels back in 2016, just before the election. He's taking a case that the feds said they wouldn't prosecute. Here comes the former president. Let's just listen into this.
President Trump, will you come speak to us? President Trump?
Wow. And he went right into the courtroom. We thought that he was going to come up to that camera, but change of plans to what we had been advised. And he just walked straight in there. So again, we are told that there is a still photographer who is in the courtroom who will.
There was a still photographer in the courtroom. We have the photographs of Donald Trump during the arraignment. These are actual photographs of Trump as he was read the 34 felony counts that he has been charged with. You see his legal team right there. Donald Trump was read the 34 felony charges. He pled not guilty to each and every count. And then we showed you outside of what took place at the courthouse, but with his lawyers giving their press conference. Now it looks like we are moments away from Alvin Bragg's press conference. And so we're going to bring you that uninterrupted, unfiltered. We have our own cameras there right now. We'll bring you into the room as Alvin Bragg is about to take the podium, likely with other members of his team of prosecutors who have done an incredibly diligent job, who have been incredibly courageous as Donald Trump threatens them, threatens their family members. You see the demonstrative boards right there that are on the screen, $130,000 hush money payment, 34 counts of falsifying business records. And when Alvin Bragg takes the podium, he will likely, him and his team will go through those demonstratives for you. And we will, of course, have that coverage live here, uninterrupted. We will obviously not be talking over that, but a historic day. Donald Trump thought that this would be a triumphant visit. He thought there would be numerous cult followers wearing their red hats outside of the courthouse, cheering him on. It was quite the opposite. This was him leaving after being arrested. You see a somber, almost completely deflated Donald Trump walk to the courthouse. There was a still photographer in the courtroom who took these photographs of him, where, again, looking completely and totally deflated. 34 felony counts, very, very, very serious charges. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're being told we are very close to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg giving his press conference, which we will bring for you live here, uninterrupted on the MeidasTouch network. We just got the 2-minute warning. One thing I'd like to remind all of you as you watch this, though, please hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. It is free to subscribe. There's Alvin Bragg, and we will bring you Alvin Bragg's press conference right now.
Joining us here today. Earlier this afternoon, Donald Trump was arraigned on a New York Supreme Court indictment returned by a Manhattan grand jury on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. Under New York state law, it is a felony to falsify business records with intent to defraud and an intent to conceal another crime. That is exactly what this case is about. 34 false statements made to cover up other crimes. These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct. The defendant repeatedly made false statements on New York business records. He also caused others to make false statements. The defendant claimed that he was paying Michael Cohen for legal services performed in 2017. This simply was not true. And it was a false statement that the defendant made month after month in 2017. April, May, June, and so on through the rest of the year. For 9 straight months, the defendant held documents in his hand containing this key lie, that he was paying Michael Cohen for legal services performed in 2017. And he personally signed checks for payments to Michael Cohen for each of these 9 months. In total, the grand jury found there were 34 documents with this critical false statement. Why did Donald Trump repeatedly make these false statements? The evidence will show that he did so to cover up crimes relating to the 2016 election. Donald Trump, executives at the publishing company American Media Incorporated, Mr. Cohen, and others agreed in 2015 to a catch and kill scheme. That is, a scheme to buy and suppress negative information to help Mr. Trump's chance of winning the election. As part of this scheme, Donald Trump and others made 3 payments to people who claimed to have negative information about Mr. Trump. To make these payments, they set up shell companies, and they made yet more false statements, including, for example, in AMI, American Media Incorporated's business records. One of the 3 people that they paid to keep quiet was a woman named Stormy Daniels. Less than 2 weeks before the presidential election, Michael Cohen wired $130,000 to Stormy Daniels' lawyer. That payment was to hide damaging information from the voting public. The participant scheme was illegal. The scheme violated New York election law, which makes it a crime to conspire to promote a candidacy by unlawful means. The $130,000 wire payment exceeded the federal campaign contribution cap, and the false statements in AMI's books violated New York law. That is why Mr. Trump made false statements about his payments to Mr. Cohen. He could not simply say that the payments were a reimbursement for Mr. Cohen's payments to Stormy Daniels. To do so, to make that true statement, would have been to admit a crime. So instead, Mr. Trump said that he was paying Mr. Cohen for fictitious legal services in 2017 to cover up actual crime committed the prior year. And in order to get Michael Cohen his money back, they planned one last false statement. In order to complete the scheme, they planned to mischaracterize the repayments to Mr. Cohen as income to the New York State tax authorities. The conduct I just described and that which was charged by the grand jury is felony criminal conduct in New York State. True and accurate business records are important everywhere, to be sure. They are all the more important in Manhattan, the financial center of the world. That is why we have a history in the Manhattan DA's office of vigorously enforcing white-collar crime. My office, including the talented prosecutors you saw at arraignment earlier today, has charged hundreds of felony falsifying business records. This charge, it can be said, is the bread and butter of our white-collar work. And fraud presents itself in all different forms here in Manhattan. We have charged falsifying business records for those who violated federal bank secrecy laws. We have charged falsifying business records for those who were seeking to cover up sex crimes. And we have brought this charge for those who committed tax violations. At its core, this case today is one with allegations like so many of our white collar cases. Allegations that someone lied again and again to protect their interests and evade the laws to which we are all held accountable. As this office has done time and time again, we today uphold our solemn responsibility to ensure that everyone stands equal before the law. No amount of money and no amount of power changes that enduring American principle. I'll now take questions. We conducted a thorough and rigorous investigation, as we're known to do, at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I've been doing this for 24 years and am no stranger to rigorous, complex investigations. I bring cases when they're ready. Having now conducted a rigorous, thorough investigation, the case was ready to be brought, and it was brought.
Mr. Bragg, the indictment says that there were 34 false business records. And they were done to conceal another crime, but the indictment does not specifically say what those crimes were. We are assuming, perhaps, that they might be election-related. I'm wondering if you can specify what laws were also broken.
Right. So let me say as an initial matter that the indictment doesn't specify that because the law does not so require. In my remarks, I mentioned a couple of laws, which I will highlight again now. The first is New York State election law, which makes it a crime to conspire to promote a candidacy by unlawful means. I further indicated a number of unlawful means, including more additional false statements, including statements that were planned to be made to tax authorities. I also noted the federal election law cap on contribution limits.
But why weren't there those crimes charged? Why wasn't he charged with those crimes?
Well, I'm not going to go into our deliberative process on what was brought. The charges that were brought were the ones that were brought. The evidence in the law is the basis for those decisions.
You had expressed a year ago that you had some reservations about the case's readiness. Can you talk to us about what were some of the questions in your mind that needed to be answered in order to bring a case of this magnitude?
I'm not going to go chapter and verse into any thinking. What I will say is, I believe the time period you're talking about, I've been in office for a couple of months. The investigation, in my view, was not concluded into the conduct in particular that is the basis for the charges today. Since that time, we've had more evidence made available to the office and opportunity to meet with additional witnesses. As I said earlier, I've been doing this for 24 years. I don't bring cases prior to a thorough and rigorous investigation. Now, having done so, the case has been brought.
Your predecessor took a hard look at this case and decided not to charge it. Federal prosecutors took a hard look at this case and decided not to charge it. Do you believe you have new evidence that led you to decide to charge this, or why now?
Well, as I just mentioned, we have had available to the office additional evidence that was not in the office's possession prior to my time here. And as to your part of your question about the federal, we have a distinct and strong, I would say profound, independent interest in New York State. This is the business capital of the world. We regularly do cases involving false business statements. The bedrock, in fact, the basis for business integrity and a well-functioning business marketplace is true and accurate record keeping. That's the charge that's brought here, falsifying New York State business records.
You allege former President Trump was one of the participants.
I'm not going to go beyond the plain language statement of facts, which I think speaks for itself. So the charge is falsifying business records. The charge requires, as I specified, criminal conduct that was concealed. One of the concealed crimes we allege is New York State election law. I went through in our statement of facts, which I think many of you have in front of you, goes through things including text messages, emails, contemporaneous phone records, multiple witnesses. All of that will be, as you saw in the fall, borne out in a public courtroom in downtown Manhattan. I'm glad you put your finger on that, because it's not just about one payment. It is 34 business records, 34 false statements in business records that were concealing criminal conduct. And the earlier question about New York State election law, when I talked about conspiracy to promote a candidacy by unlawful means. Those unlawful means, we allege, include the conduct set forth in the statement of facts, which is additional false statements separate and apart from the charged ones in AMI documents, planned false statements to taxing authorities. It is not just that one $130,000 wire payment. Thanks so much.
Any comment about any incitement of violence by
There you have it on a incredibly historic day, an incredibly historic press conference held by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg there that I'm pleased we were able to bring you live. Alvin Bragg said, look, I've been doing this for many, many, many years. We were ready to bring the case, so we brought the case after diligent work. He said, I'm not going to get into our internal deliberations. If I didn't think it was ready, I would not bring the case. He's not going beyond the statement of facts, which we read here. We read for you the copy of the indictment with those 34 felony counts, and we read that for you here on the MeidasTouch network. And a historic day in American history. It certainly did not go as planned for Donald Trump. He showed up, thought he was going to have this rally for him, did not go the way he thought. I think we have video footage here just so you can see. This was Donald Trump entering the courthouse. We'll just do a brief recap of what took place. That's actually the video there you see is of him leaving after being arrested. Before showing that clip, though, let's play the clip of when he entered the court building for the first time to be arrested. Let's play that clip.
Place right behind where I'm standing now, a massive motorcade. Obviously, the Secret Service, the motorcade as well, getting into formation for a former president, stepping out of his vehicle. You see the Secret Service now stepping outside, taking a look around, massive Secret Service presence all along the street there. We're just awaiting him to step outside his vehicle once they have a handle of the security here. And then you see the former president there stepping out of his vehicle. He gave a wave to the crowd here, making his way into the building in which he'll be fingerprinted. And now, no, Katie, he will not, in fact, have a mugshot taken of him.
A wave, but a very serious look for Donald Trump as he makes his way into that building for what we have accurately described as a very...
Then I'll show you this clip. You know, George Santos and Marjorie Taylor Greene were there. They thought they were going to organize this big rally. Here's George Santos basically running away after it was clear that no one was there other than the media who had some questions for him. Here, play this clip.
I'm doing nothing. I'm leaving.
Are you coming back at all later today?
No, because you guys make it unbearable to be here.
Why are you here then?
I came to support the president, but...
Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene also walking into a crowd where there was a bunch of people whistling. Let's play this clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Behind you, man. Behind you. Back up. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Back up.
Then Marjorie Taylor Greene was in a car with her boyfriend who hosts one of the right-wing propaganda networks. And here she is comparing Donald Trump to Jesus. Play this clip.
President Trump is joining some of the most incredible people in history being arrested today. Nelson Mandela was arrested, served time in prison. Jesus was arrested and murdered by the Roman government. There have been many people throughout history that have been arrested and persecuted by radical, corrupt governments. And it's beginning today in New York City. And I just can't believe it's happening, but I'll always support him. He's done nothing wrong.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, a complete fascist traitor. Here's Donald Trump walking into the courtroom after being arrested and after having his fingerprints taken. He then walks to the courtroom. This is captured by Fox. Play this clip.
So let's not forget that Alvin Bragg not only is he setting precedent from bringing criminal charges for the very first time in this nation's history against a former president, but he's taking a case. And this is the hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels back in 2016, just before the election. He's taking a case that the feds said they wouldn't prosecute. Here comes the former president. Let's just listen into this.
President Trump, will you come speak to us? President Trump?
Yeah. And he went right into the courtroom. We thought that he was going to come up to that camera, but change of plans to what we had been advised. And he just walked straight in there. So again, we are told that there is a still photographer who is in the courtroom who...
There was a still photographer in the courtroom. Here are some of the shots the still photographer took of Donald Trump during the arraignment. There he is with his surrounded by his legal team. We have some other shots that the still photographer took. That one's panned out a little bit. I think we have another photograph or two. Donald Trump, yeah, that was the one I wanted to show you. And I apologize for showing it to you. Donald Trump pled not guilty to each of the 34 felony counts. I suppose in theory, Donald Trump could be sentenced if he's ultimately convicted on these counts of over 100 years in prison. That's likely not what the sentence would be. It would likely be done concurrently. And so you're looking probably around 4 years, but probably somewhere around 2 years after the sentencing took place if he is convicted, although it is true that the charges potentially could carry no jail time, but it would be at the discretion of Judge Juan Merchan. Donald Trump had been, or Don Jr. had been posting photographs of Judge Juan Merchan's daughter today on social media platform. Judge Juan Merchan didn't issue any gag orders, said we weren't there yet. That's what we predicted was going to happen. We thought that the judge was going to say that the judge was concerned about Donald Trump's threatening statements, but that they were not at the point of issuing a gag order. That's what took place. We're hearing some additional reporting right now. Per Garrett Hake, next hearing will be December 4th. And the court said that Trump would, at this time, have to appear in person for that hearing. Look, Donald Trump is now in the criminal justice system. He's been charged with felonies. He's being treated no different than anybody else. And so each one of these appearances, Donald Trump will have to show up. What's interesting about that December 4th date, it will likely be around the same time Donald Trump will be in trial in Manhattan federal court. The E. Jean Carroll rape trial and defamation case against Donald Trump is set to take place on April 25th, so a few weeks from now. and jury selection will probably take, I think, probably longer than a week there. And so while jury selections going on and E. Jean Carroll or perhaps opening statements are set to begin, Donald Trump will have to make his next appearance back in Manhattan court before Judge Juan Merchan. Donald Trump stated, or put on his social media platform, let's just put up what he posted, where he said, "Wow, I can't believe I'm being arrested." And this is what he put before he showed up. "Heading to Lower Manhattan, the courthouse seems so surreal. Wow, they are going to arrest me. Can't believe this is happening in America." Donald Trump did not speak to any press at all. He was expected to, but he looked defeated and completely deflated. Instead of walking where the press was set up and Fox was set up, and I think he had told Fox reporters that he was going to speak with them, you see he makes a hard beeline into the courtroom where he was read the charges against him. His lawyers, though, did speak outside of the courthouse. We have a clip of Joe Tacopina saying a bunch of Tacopina nonsense. Play this clip.
President not use language. He requested that everybody involved refrain from using language that's inappropriate. And by the way, that includes the witnesses for the people who are talking just
But it
as
also
much.
includes the former president swinging a baseball bat at the head of the Manhattan DA.
Well, I don't know where you got that, because if
That
you
was a tweet sent out by the former president.
no, it wasn't. And first of all, that picture was not him swinging a baseball bat. I mean, if you want to distort the facts, go right ahead. I want to address that. Yes, it is. He wasn't swinging a baseball bat at anyone's head. That was a picture of him showing off an American-made bat. Someone else put a picture of the district attorney next to him, and in an article posted that. That's not his article. It's not his photos.
Not using language that incites.
Guys, here's what we're going to talk about today. Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the insufficiency of this case, and I will.
Trump's lawyers are just so bad. There's an old adage that you get the lawyers that you deserve, and Donald Trump definitely deserves Joe Tacopina, and Joe Tacopina absolutely deserves Donald Trump there. We then heard from Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg basically just said, he's not going to go beyond what's stated in the statement of facts in the indictment. We've read for you from the indictment. Salty, if we can, I'm not going to go read the full indictment, but if we could just maybe pull up the indictment just so everybody could see what the indictment looks like, and maybe they can see what the statement of facts looks like. And we'll try to pull that up in a moment here as we grab that. Alvin Bragg completed his press conference and took a few questions, answered a few questions, and now the criminal justice system just continues on its normal course. These are the statement of facts, and that basically gives the indictment's just relatively straightforward and just lists the crimes, but the statement of facts there talks about what went down. It says defendant Donald J. Trump repeatedly and fraudulently falsified New York business records to conceal criminal conduct that hid damaging information from the voting public during the 2016 presidential election. It goes on to discuss the broader conspiracy and catch and kill scheme that was worked out with the National Enquirer and with Michael Cohen. By the way, Michael Cohen, who is a co-host here at the MeidasTouch network for the show Political Beatdown, and we hope Michael on in a little bit. Obviously, the news of the day required a little bit of a delay from the Political Beatdown show, but hopefully we'll have Cohen on in about an hour or so. Want to remind everybody to subscribe to this YouTube channel right now. It is free to subscribe to this YouTube channel, so make sure you hit subscribe. Also, if you want to support independent media like this, we are not funded by any outside investors at all. No outside investors. And the way we fund this is through our Patreon account. So no worries if you can't do it, but if you can, go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We've got a lot of great membership content there, but most importantly, it helps fund this independent media platform. And look, we had at some points today, we were the #1 most watched stream in all of YouTube streams and all of news, which is pretty incredible. And we had our own cameras that were at the courtroom. And so when you join patreon.com/MeidasTouch, it allows us to fund it that way. It's probably not the best business model in the world that we're not funded by outside investors, but that's not the point. And we do it on Patreon. We're 100% independent, 100% unapologetically pro-democracy. I want to also remind you to go to store.MeidasTouch.com for the best democracy gear out there, the best pro-democracy gear. And I want to just show you this from my younger brother, Jordy, about one of the new shirts that we've got. Let's listen to Jordy.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.
I want to give a special thanks on this historic broadcast to all of our Patreon producers. One of the membership tiers is the producer level, where your name appears at the end of each of our episodes. And you will see right here all of our producers who join the producer membership tiers. Your name gets to appear here in these historic broadcasts that we bring you, and the historic coverage that we have. So thank you to all of our honorary producers. And again, please, if you can, please make sure to hit the subscribe button right now. We've got a lot more coverage in the rest of the day. We'll be speaking with Michael Cohen, hopefully in the next few hours, and we'll bring you that interview. In addition, we will bring you our regularly scheduled video clips, special counsel Jack Smith with some really big news as well, winning a major victory in the Court of Appeals. So we're going to show you that video that we made, and we're going to have our normal cadence giving you all this video content. So what an incredible historic day. Thank you all for watching this. None of this is possible without the Meidas Mighty out there. You are the heroes, you fighting for our democracy each and every day. And this is not some sterile media network. This is a movement fueled by you. And I'm so fortunate and blessed to just be a part of this and to be able to speak with you and bring you this historic coverage. Thank you all so much for watching this. This is the MeidasTouch Network, the future of media, the future of what it means to be unapologetically pro-democracy. We love our country. We love our Constitution, and we show that with our actions, with real law and order, and with the truth. I'm Ben Meiselas. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to the Meidas Mighty.
Lock him up! Indictment season is upon us. Celebrate with the new Indictment season t-shirt and v-neck exclusively at store.MeidasTouch.com.